The sand looks alive, moving a little with each pulse of the tide. The whole sea feels like it's breathing. Bikini Bottom is far above, still and peaceful. Bubbles rise from chimneys. Jellyfish float past rooftops. It's calm everywhere. Under all that calm, there's a sound, very low and deep. It feels like something under the ground is humming in its sleep. SpongeBob floats down from the surface, his eyes half closed. He looks peaceful, like he's dreaming even while awake. Beside him, Patrick drifts slowly, holding a glowing jellyfish in his hand. The light moves across their faces, soft and warm. Patrick says he hears something. SpongeBob smiles and says, "Maybe the ocean is sleeping." They both laugh quietly. The sound disappears into the dark water. They float deeper. The light from the jellyfish touches old rocks covered in moss and coral. The rocks look strange, shaped like pieces of something that broke a long time ago. Some of them look like faces, eyes half open, mouths frozen mid-breath. Tiny bubbles rise from cracks in the stone. Every time they reach the surface, they glow red for a moment, then fade. The hum in the distance grows stronger, not loud, just steady, like a giant heart far away. SpongeBob touches the sand with his hand. It's warm. The ground trembles gently under his palm. He looks at Patrick, and Patrick looks back, both a little surprised but not afraid. They keep moving, the jellyfish leading the way. The water feels heavier here, thicker, slower. Old sea plants move with the rhythm of the hum, swaying side to side as if they're listening. They pass through an arch of black rock. Inside, the walls shine faintly with patterns carved long ago, spirals, circles, waves, and one shape that looks like a mountain with a closed eye. SpongeBob stops in front of it. "Look," he says softly. "It's sleeping." Patrick tilts his head. "Volcanoes don't sleep." "Everything sleeps," SpongeBob said. "Even the mountains." They stand there for a while, just listening. The hum moves through the water, through the stone, through them. Bubbles drift around like slow snow. The camera moves away, showing them small against the giant walls. The jellyfish light dances on the carvings. When the hum grows deeper, faint red light moves under the sand, tracing lines that spread outward like veins. A soft wind of bubbles passes. The sand lifts and settles again, showing glimpses of more stone under it, something large buried there. SpongeBob kneels down, brushing the sand aside. The ground shines for a second, as if answering his touch. Patrick yawns, eyes drooping, the movement making his bubbles rise faster. He says he's sleepy. SpongeBob nods, still staring at the sand. The hum is almost a lullaby now. They sit together on a rock, the jellyfish floating above like a little moon. The water around them glows faintly gold. Small fish swim in circles, tiny lights flickering like stars under the sea. The sound of the volcano fills everything. Not scary, not heavy, just slow, warm, alive. SpongeBob whispers, "It's dreaming." Patrick nods. "What do volcanoes dream about?" SpongeBob smiles. "Maybe about the first time they saw the ocean. Maybe about fire turning into light." They both stare at the glowing sand. The scene stays still for a long moment. The camera moves through the bubbles, following the lines of red light that spread across the seafloor. Everywhere the light touches, coral blooms softly. Plants sway, fish gather. It's as if the volcano's dream keeps the whole ocean alive. The hum fades, replaced by gentle water sounds. SpongeBob lies back, hands behind his head, watching the lights drift. Patrick does the same, his jellyfish landing on his chest, pulsing gently like a nightlight. Bubbles rise in slow motion. They twist and split, reflecting the golden glow before fading into the dark. The sand settles again. The rocks stop trembling. The light from below dims, turning orange, then pink, then finally blue. Bikini Bottom glows faintly in the distance, tiny homes resting under the moon. Everything feels calm again. Patrick's breathing slows, a tiny smile on his face. SpongeBob's eyes close halfway. The hum becomes softer, now only part of the water's rhythm, that the ocean stays quiet. Nothing moves too fast. Every sound feels soft, far away. The current moves through the broken stones, brushing over coral like fingertips on a lullaby. It carries little bits of sand that shimmer in the faint red light still glowing under the sea floor. SpongeBob slowly opens his eyes again. He feels the water vibrating around him, tiny movements that almost sound like breathing. Patrick is still beside him, half asleep, his jellyfish floating lazily near his face. SpongeBob looks at the carvings on the wall again. He runs his hand across them, tracing the spiral marks. The lines feel smooth, almost alive. He can feel warmth under the stone, faint but real. "Patrick," he whispers, "what if this is the heart of the ocean?" Patrick doesn't answer right away. He's blinking slowly and trying to stay awake. "The ocean has a heart?" he asks, voice thick with sleep. "Everything has a heart," SpongeBob says softly. "Even the sea. Maybe this is where it hides when it's tired." Patrick nods and closes his eyes again. The light flickers across his face. Small bubbles rise from the cracks in the stone beside them, drifting upward like slow-motion snowflakes. They stay there for a long time. The water moves gently around them. Every now and then, a deep sound rolls through the sand, like the world turning over in its sleep. In the distance, a soft glow appears, not bright, not sudden, just a warm light spreading slowly through the water. SpongeBob turns his head toward it. The glow moves like a breath, fading and returning, as if calling them closer. He nudges Patrick. "Look," he said. Patrick squints. "Is that, lava?" "Maybe," SpongeBob answers. "Or maybe it's something dreaming." They float toward the light. The path is calm and open, the water thick with quiet. Coral arches rise above them, covered in tiny, shining shells. Each shell opens and closes, catching bits of light before letting them go. The glow ahead gets stronger. As they move closer, they see that it's coming from a crack in the ground. The crack is long and thin, running across the ocean floor like a glowing scar. Inside, slow streams of golden bubbles drift upward. SpongeBob reaches out again. The warmth feels kind, not dangerous. Patrick yawns. "Feels like my blanket," he says. "Yeah," SpongeBob smiles, like the ocean is tucking itself in. The hum grows deeper. It doesn't scare them. It feels like something old is talking in its sleep. Every vibration spreads through the sand, through the coral, through them. SpongeBob sits down on the ground near the glowing crack. The light shines through the thin layer of sand beneath him. He can see shadows moving slowly below the surface waves, a molten color rolling beneath rock, alive but peaceful. Patrick sits next to him. "Do you think it ever wakes up?" he asks quietly. "Maybe it did once," SpongeBob says, a long time ago. "Maybe that's why the sea knows how to shine." They both watch as the red light shifts to orange, then gold, then a faint soft pink. The water dances gently, glowing from below like a dream breathing through its last sigh. Tiny fish swim near the light, their bodies glowing with it. They circle SpongeBob and Patrick, leaving rings of silver bubbles behind them. Patrick laughs sleepily. "It's like the volcano's nightlight." SpongeBob giggles. "Yeah, Maybe it doesn't like the dark either. They lie back again, staring at the top of the cave. Thin beams of moonlight pierce the water from above, bending and moving like ribbons. They meet the glow from below, and the two lights mix moon and magma, dream and memory. The hum grows softer again, steadier, more like a rhythm now. It feels like a lullaby, repeating itself in endless loops. SpongeBob starts to hum along with it without realizing. Patrick listens, his eyes almost closed. "That sounds nice," Patrick says. "The ocean started it," SpongeBob answers quietly. "I'm just singing with it." They both smile. Silence settles again. Bubbles drift past their faces, touching their cheeks before floating upward. The jellyfish nearby pulse slowly, their glow fading in and out with the same rhythm as the hum. Minutes pass, maybe hours. Time doesn't feel real here. The carvings on the wall behind them begin to glow faintly again, the same patterns, spirals, and waves. They light up in the same color as the crack in the ground, connecting like veins of gold. The cave starts to shimmer with quiet warmth. SpongeBob watches, wide-eyed but calm. "It's breathing," he whispers. Patrick mumbles. "Everything's breathing." His voice soft and slow. More light flows through the walls, gentle and even, until the whole place feels alive. Coral opens its petals like flowers, releasing tiny, glowing dust. The dust floats through the water, covering everything in a glittering fog. SpongeBob lifts his hand, watching the specks land on his fingers. They melt away like mist. Patrick moves his fingers through the dust, making small waves. "It's like snow," he says, yawning again. "Lava snow," SpongeBob answers, laughing quietly. They stay there, surrounded by light and calm. Nothing else moves except the tiny fish and drifting dust. The camera moves closer to the sand again. Beneath it, slow waves of golden color move deeper into the distance, carrying the same steady heartbeat. The ocean hum is now joined by a faint echo, almost like voices humming in the distance. Maybe it's just the current, maybe something else. It sounds peaceful either way. Patrick slowly curls up, his arms around himself. "It's warm here," he says softly. "Yeah," SpongeBob answers, his voice almost a whisper. "Feels like home." They both fall quiet. The glow fades a little, then grows again, pulsing softly. It matches the rhythm of their breathing. Bubbles rise from the sand beside them, wrapping around them in small trails. It looks almost like the volcano itself is watching over them, keeping them safe in its dream. SpongeBob's eyes flutter. He looks at Patrick, who's already drifting off, mouth open slightly. The jellyfish above him hovers like a lamp, glowing just enough to light his face. SpongeBob smiles and closes his eyes. The hum fills the scene again, deeper, softer, warmer. The light begins to fade very slowly, turning from gold to blue to deep violet. The carvings on the wall dim. The coral closes again, curling its petals like it's going back to sleep. Everything goes still. The only sound left is the slow rise and fall of the ocean. Bikini Bottom shines faintly far above, tiny dots of light in the water. The volcano's glow remains under the sand, gentle and steady. A crab walks past their rock, stops, looks at them, and keeps moving. A jellyfish joins the one above Patrick, both moving in the same slow dance. Time moves differently here. Seconds stretch, turning into minutes, minutes into stillness. The sand under them is warm and smooth. The ocean floor feels like a giant blanket covering the sleeping volcano beneath. Somewhere far below, a heartbeat echoes once, very faintly. The water glows again for a moment, then fades back to calm. Patrick mumbles something about pancakes in his sleep. SpongeBob laughs softly without opening his eyes. Tiny lights gather around them, glowing plankton drifting closer, settling on their hands and feet, covering them in a soft halo. The ocean holds them gently, rocking them with invisible waves. It feels safe, endless and old. As the minutes pass, everything slows even more. The hum becomes the ocean's breath. The glow becomes a memory. The camera drifts upward away from them, past the ruins, past the coral walls, up toward the soft shimmer of the surface. Bubbles rise all around like stars. Above them, the faint outline of Bikini Bottom sleeps. All the lights dim except one, a small, warm glow from SpongeBob's pineapple window. The sea keeps breathing. The volcano keeps dreaming. Everything is still. Nothing stirs except the slow pulse of the earth beneath the waves. And somewhere in that deep silence, it feels like the ocean is whispering to itself, not in words, but in warmth, in rhythm, in sleep, that the water stays still for a long while, almost completely silent. Only a soft shimmer moves through the darkness, light bending and stretching with each small wave of warmth coming from the ground below. The glow isn't gone, it only hides now, sleeping under thin layers of sand and coral. SpongeBob opens his eyes again. Everything feels slow, like the world around him is breathing in its sleep. He blinks a few times, watching the way bubbles drift upward, twisting and breaking apart before disappearing. Patrick snores beside him, a quiet, funny sound that fits perfectly in the stillness. His jellyfish lamp floats above him, its glow faint and steady. SpongeBob smiles, eyes soft. He doesn't want to wake Patrick. Instead, he just lies there, staring at the carvings on the walls, the way they fade and return with each pulse of hidden light. He reaches out toward one of the glowing lines on the rock. It feels warm again, but this time it hums gently, almost like it recognizes his touch. A small stream of bubbles escapes from under the stone. They gather around his hand, swirling slowly before floating away. "Hi," SpongeBob whispers quietly to the wall, almost as if it could hear him. "You can keep sleeping. We'll be quiet." The hum in the distance answers, low and deep, fading in and out like a heartbeat. Above them, far away, the shadow of a jellyfish swarm passes. The faint light from their bodies makes the surface water sparkle, sending lines of color down into the cave. The colors blend with the orange and gold glow still flickering below the sand. It feels like the sea itself is painting over their dreams. Patrick rolls onto his side and mumbles something about ice cream. SpongeBob laughs quietly, his voice barely a whisper. The sound mixes with the hum for a moment, turning into something softer, lighter. He sits up slowly, looking around. The walls seem taller now, stretching far into the darkness. Coral grows from them like old roots, twisting and glowing faintly blue. Tiny creatures hide among them, their eyes blinking like stars. One of them, a tiny glowing shrimp, crawls across a stone near SpongeBob's hand. He watches it for a long time, fascinated by how something so small can move so gracefully in such a big, quiet world. "Hey, little guy," he whispers. "You live here?" The shrimp pauses, then disappears into the coral. A small trail of glowing dust floats in its place. Patrick yawns behind him. "What are you talking to?" SpongeBob turns around. "Oh, just a shrimp. He didn't say much." Patrick blinks slowly. "Smart shrimp," he says, and falls asleep again. The hum changes slightly, not louder, but deeper, richer. It vibrates through the rocks, through the water, through SpongeBob's chest. He can feel it like a song with no beginning and no end. It's not a warning, not a roar. It's calm, steady, the kind of sound that makes everything else want to rest. SpongeBob lies back again, hands behind his head, staring at the ceiling. He imagines what the volcano might be dreaming about. Maybe it remembers being awake when it glowed bright and strong, when rivers of light ran through the sea like veins of gold. Maybe it remembers the first time it saw rain falling from above, turning fire into steam, teaching it how to sleep. He thinks about how long it's been dreaming, maybe thousands of years. He wonders if it ever gets lonely down here, sleeping alone while everything above moves and laughs and plays. But as the hum continues, he realizes it doesn't sound lonely at all. It sounds content, peaceful, deep, endless, like a lullaby for the whole ocean. The camera moves slowly through the cave again, passing over the glowing cracks and coral. Little by little, the scene changes, bubbles rise slower, colors grow softer. The water becomes almost mist-like, filled with gentle drifting lights. Time feels different here. Seconds blend into minutes, and minutes stretch into something uncountable. Patrick's snoring grows quieter, mixing with the low hum. His jellyfish lamp dims, its light merging with the glow from below. SpongeBob's eyes start to close again, but before he drifts off, he hears something faint, a sound like waves rolling through hollow stone. It comes from deep below, even deeper than the glowing sand. He sits up just a little, listening. The sound repeats, not fast, not sharp, just a slow, calm rush of water. He looks down at the glowing crack. The light moves again, spreading outward like veins through the floor. Patrick opens one eye. "What's that?" he mumbles. I think it's the volcano dreaming again," SpongeBob whispers. Patrick yawns. "Hope it dreams nice things." "Me too." The glow rises for a few moments, painting everything in warm gold again. The water shimmers. Coral petals open and release more glowing dust, floating upward like lanterns. The current moves gently through them, carrying the light around SpongeBob and Patrick. For a moment, it feels like the sea itself is wrapping them in a soft blanket. The humming deepens once more, then fades into a rhythm, like a heartbeat. SpongeBob leans back, eyes closing, smiling faintly. His thoughts drift like bubbles, simple, calm. He thinks about Krabby Patties, jellyfishing, laughter, and the warmth of home. The hum continues under it all, turning even his dreams into part of the ocean's song. The view widens again. The two of them look small against the glowing seafloor. Coral glows faintly. Fish drift through beams of light, and the old volcano sleeps beneath them all, steady and patient. As minutes pass, the golden color fades again, turning deep blue. The hum becomes quieter until it's more feeling than sound. Patrick murmurs in his sleep, something about needing ketchup for his dream burgers. SpongeBob laughs softly, not really awake, not really asleep. More bubbles rise from the cracks in the ground. They drift upward, carrying the last bits of golden light with them. When they reach the surface of the water above, they burst in slow motion, scattering tiny sparks that fall like stars. The camera follows them upward, past the coral, past the broken pillars, past the small, glowing shrimp hiding in cracks. The further it goes, the darker it gets, until only a faint blue light remains from the surface. Far above, the faint outline of Bikini Bottom appears again, quiet, still glowing faintly in the distance. The sound of the ocean heartbeat fades into nothing. Then slowly, the view drifts back down. The light from above becomes softer, merging again with the deep glow from below. Everything is balanced, sky and sea, fire and water, wakefulness and sleep. Back on the seafloor, SpongeBob and Patrick are still resting. The jellyfish above them pulses one last time, then dims completely. joining the rhythm of the ocean. The last thing to move is the sand. It shifts slightly as if the volcano beneath is turning over in its sleep. Then it stops. The world is perfectly still again. For a few seconds, there's only silence, soft, endless silence. Then the hum returns, faint and far away, almost like a whisper saying goodnight. The silence lasts for a long time, so long that even the tiny bubbles seem afraid to move. The ocean floor feels frozen in a dream. Nothing stirs, nothing speaks. It's the kind of quiet that only happens when the world itself is asleep. Then, very slowly, a soft light begins to bloom again. Not bright, not sudden, just a faint shimmer leaking from the cracks in the sand. The glow is pale blue this time, cool and calm, like moonlight hidden beneath the sea. The water stirs just a little. The movement spreads through the coral like ripples in silk. It feels peaceful, not restless, more like the sea stretching before sinking deeper into rest. SpongeBob blinks. His eyes open halfway, catching the glow. For a second he forgets where he is, then remembers the hum, the carvings, the warmth of the sand. Patrick is still asleep beside him, curled up, a small stream of bubbles floating from his mouth. The jellyfish hovers above them, light returning in gentle pulses. Each glow fades into the next, like slow breathing. SpongeBob stretches his arms and sits up quietly. He looks around the cavern again. It's softer now. The rough rocks look smooth. The carvings look gentler, almost like smiles. He whispers, "It's still dreaming." The water around him answers with a faint tremor, not strong, just enough to make the sand shimmer again. He smiles. Patrick stirs, opening one eye. "Morning," he mumbles. "Not yet," SpongeBob says softly. "It's still night down here." Patrick hums sleepily. Then 5 more minutes. He turns over and goes right back to sleep. SpongeBob laughs quietly, the sound barely leaving his mouth. The sound bounces once against the walls and fades. The hum beneath them returns, but softer than before. It sounds like a song now, not just one note, but several, weaving together slowly. Low tones of stone, high echoes of bubbles, and a steady rhythm in between. The cracks in the ground start to glow again, following the beat. It looks like light traveling through veins, like the sea itself has a pulse. SpongeBob watches, his eyes wide but calm. "You're singing," he whispers to the ground. The hum deepens and the glow brightens just slightly, as if answering him. The coral sways again. Small sea plants open up, releasing trails of glowing dust that drift upwards. The water fills with them, tiny stars floating through the deep blue. They move toward SpongeBob and Patrick, spinning in slow circles before floating away. The water looks like the night sky has fallen to the sea. Patrick yawns without opening his eyes. "It's snowing again?" he asks. "Yeah," SpongeBob says softly. "Lava snow." Patrick smiles, still half asleep. The camera moves slowly away from them, showing the size of the cave again, endless walls, glowing rivers under the sand, faint beams of light falling from above. The whole place looks alive, like a living heart buried under the world. For a while, nothing happens. Just slow light, soft hum, tiny fish moving through the glow. Then a new sound begins, distant, gentle, like waves brushing against old rock. It comes from far below, deeper than before. The hum changes slightly to match it, as though the volcano is answering. The vibrations spread across the seafloor, through the coral, through the ruins. Everything shivers for a moment, then goes still again. SpongeBob feels it through his hands. It's not scary, it's comforting, warm. It feels like the volcano sighing in its sleep. He whispers, "Sweet dreams." Patrick's only reply is a tiny snore. Time passes again, the kind of time that has no real measure. Minutes, hours, everything feels like one long, slow breath. The blue glow fades to soft green. The carvings on the walls flicker again, their spiral lines tracing light across the stone. For a moment, the whole cave shines like glass. SpongeBob closes his eyes and listens. He can still hear the hum, but there's something else inside it now, a rhythm almost like laughter. Not loud, not clear, but faint, distant, familiar. It reminds him of jellyfish fields on a summer day, or Krabby Patties sizzling on the grill, or Patrick's goofy giggle echoing through the kelp forest. Maybe the volcano's dreaming of them. The thought makes him smile. In his mind, he imagines the volcano watching the world above Bikini Bottom, glowing under the sun, the ocean full of life, laughter floating through water like music. Maybe that's what keeps it sleeping so peacefully. Above them, a few bubbles rise faster than before. The surface far away glows faintly silver. The water is getting clearer, brighter. The hum starts to slow down again, its rhythm steady and gentle, like a lullaby reaching its last verse. SpongeBob feels his eyelids grow heavy. The sound makes him tired again. It's the kind of sound that feels safe to fall asleep to. He lies down beside Patrick once more. The sand under them is warm, soft like a bed. Patrick shifts closer, mumbling something about pancakes again. The jellyfish lowers itself, hovering right above them both, glowing with a soft, steady rhythm. Its light flickers like candlelight underwater. The coral closes slowly, petals folding in as if going back to sleep too. The glowing dust fades, one spark at a time. The hum continues for a while longer, then begins to fade as well. SpongeBob's breathing slows, matching the rhythm of the sea. He doesn't speak anymore, doesn't move. He just listens, until even the hum sounds like silence. The camera moves slowly upward, leaving them there on the ocean floor, two small friends resting on the sleeping heart of the sea. Light filters down from above, mixing with the faint glow below. The colors blend together, turning gold, then blue, then dark. The scene becomes still again. Bikini Bottom is visible far above the outlines of homes, the soft flicker of windows, the faint shimmer of jellyfish drifting between them. Everything is calm. The view keeps pulling back, showing the entire ocean as one vast sheet of silver and blue. Deep beneath it, a soft ring of light glows faintly, the volcano still dreaming. Its heartbeat echoes once, slow and deep. The sound spreads through the water, gentle as a whisper. The sea answers with a sigh, the current moving like the ocean, exhaling. The last few bubbles rise, twisting and fading before they reach the surface. Then everything fades to darkness again. No more glow, no more hum. Just silence complete, endless, peaceful. A few moments later, faint colors begin to return the dark blue of the ocean, the soft shimmer of plankton drifting like tiny stars. The silence turns into soft background sound again. Faraway waves, a few distant whale calls, the slow echo of water touching rock. And beneath all of that, still faint, still steady, the heartbeat of the volcano continues. It's slower now, calmer, almost gone. But it's their proof that something ancient is still dreaming far below the sea. Bubbles rise one last time from the sand above it, forming small circles that float upward. As they reach the higher water, the light catches them and they shine for a moment like pearls. The scene starts to brighten. Not sunlight, just the soft glow of the ocean, remembering to wake a little. Patrick mumbles again, rolling over. SpongeBob moves slightly, eyes still closed. They both look peaceful. Nothing else moves. Not the coral, not the fish. The ocean has found its perfect balance motion without noise, light without heat, dreams without fear. The camera drifts away again, higher and higher, until they are just two tiny shapes, lying at the edge of an ancient, sleeping world. The last thing we see is the soft shimmer of the volcano's breath, a single pulse of light, spreading gently through the water, then disappearing. And then finally, complete stillness. No sound, no movement. Just the memory of warmth fading into deep blue calm. The sea sleeps again. Everything beneath Bikini Bottom rests in peace, wrapped in the heartbeat of a dream that never ends. It starts as a tremble in the sand, almost too faint to notice, like the ocean breathing again after holding its breath too long. Tiny bubbles drift upward, twisting lazily through the still water. The glow beneath the sea begins to stir again, this time deeper, slower, warmer. Far below the sleeping SpongeBob and Patrick, something begins to move. Not fast, not loud, just steady. A rhythm like a heart resuming its song. A low hum rolls through the deep, deep caverns below the ruins. The sound feels live. It's not just a vibration. It feels like it's thinking, feeling, remembering. Sand trickles down from cracks in the rocks. Faint light flickers through the crevices. The warmth grows stronger, spreading outward through the stone. For a long time, the ocean watches itself wake up. Small creatures, the tiny glowing shrimp, the shy starfish, the drifting jellyfish, all begin to move closer to the cracks. Drawn to the warmth, they gather silently, hovering like soft stars in the dark. The hum grows a little louder, still calm, still deep. But now it echoes through the coral like a song the sea once knew. Above, SpongeBob's eyelids twitch. His hand moves slightly in the sand. He's dreaming again, though it feels different this time. Warmer, heavier. Inside his dream, he's floating through endless blue, no up, no down, just light. The hum is everywhere. It's not frightening. It feels like home. In his dream, he hears something faint, a voice maybe, though it's hard to tell if it's real. It doesn't speak words, it just hums, a melody without a tune. He drifts toward it, letting the sound pull him deeper. Then he sees it, a vast, glowing sphere buried in darkness, wrapped in slow-moving light. Its surface ripples like water, but shines like molten glass. Each ripple sends out a pulse of color gold, orange, soft pink spreading through the sea like waves of warmth. The humming grows clearer. The sound vibrates inside his chest, slow and deep. He realizes what it is. The volcano, the sleeping one beneath Bikini Bottom. It's not just a mountain, it's alive. The hum changes pitch like it's aware of him. SpongeBob doesn't feel scared. Instead, he feels small but safe, like standing next to something older than time but too kind to ever hurt him. He whispers, "Hello?" The hum answers, not in words, but with a slow pulse of light that ripples through the water. The sound makes him close his eyes again. It feels like sunlight through warm glass. Then in his dream, the volcano begins to glow brighter. For a moment, he can see everything inside it, tunnels twisting like roots, rivers of light flowing like slow fire, and deep at the center, a soft core that glows like a heartbeat. The rhythm matches his own. Ba-dum, ba-dum. Soft, steady, endless. The hum turns gentler, and the whole ocean seems to sway with it. The corals bend, the sand drifts, and the bubbles pulse to the same beat. Back in the real world, Patrick mumbles something in his sleep. He rolls over, accidentally bumping into SpongeBob's arm. SpongeBob wakes, not all the way, but enough to open his eyes slightly. The glow from the cracks is brighter now, The sand around them is warm. He sits up slowly. The cavern looks different. The light has changed color. It's no longer just blue. Now it's gold mixed with amber, like the ocean has caught fire but refuses to burn. The hum vibrates through the ground into his hands. It feels calm, curious. Oh, he whispers. You're still awake? A deep tone answers from below, softer this time. It feels like a purr, like the volcano is happy to be noticed. Patrick wakes too, rubbing his eyes. What's that noise again? The ocean's tummy? SpongeBob smiles. No, Patrick. I think it's the volcano. I think it's talking. Patrick blinks, then grins sleepily. Oh, that's nice. What's it saying? SpongeBob looks down at the glowing cracks. I don't know, but I think it's singing. The hum rises just slightly, as if responding to the word. The coral lights up again, waves of color moving outward. Patrick yawns. Maybe it's singing us a lullaby. Maybe, SpongeBob says, smiling. But it feels different, like it's remembering something. They both sit there for a while, listening. The sound is slow, steady, gentle, but underneath there's something else, something like distant voices hidden in the echo. Sometimes it almost sounds like laughter. Sometimes it sounds like waves hitting an ancient shore. The light continues to grow brighter in rhythm with the hum. Ba-dum, ba-dum, ba-dum. Each pulse makes the sand lift slightly, floating upward before settling again. It feels like the ocean is breathing in its sleep. Patrick closes his eyes again, letting the sound rock him back to rest. SpongeBob stays awake a little longer, staring at the ground. He places his hand gently on the sand. It's warm, soft, alive. He whispers, if you're dreaming, then we can stay quiet. We'll just listen. The volcano hums back, slow and low, and the light fades slightly as if it understood. Then silence again. Not empty, but full of peace. Fish drift by in slow motion, weaving through the light. Small sea snails crawl along the stone walls, leaving glowing trails that fade after a few seconds. The entire place feels like a cathedral built by the sea, silent, ancient, holy. The hum never fully stops. It becomes a background rhythm, blending with the sound of water moving through cracks. Minutes pass, maybe hours. It's impossible to tell anymore. The ocean feels endless, like time itself has dissolved. Then from deep below another pulse comes, stronger this time. The sand lifts in waves, rolling gently like a heartbeat spreading through the ocean floor. The cracks widen just a little, revealing a soft light beneath. It's no longer just color, now it's movement. The volcano's core is stirring. The hum rises in pitch for a moment, then settles again, calmer, slower. Patrick opens one eye. It's streaming louder now. SpongeBob nods. Yeah, I think it's almost awake, but not really. Just turning over. They both watch as the light pulses once more, sending ripples through the sand. The jellyfish floats back into the frame, its glow syncing perfectly with the rhythm. For a moment, all of Bikini Bottom, even far above, feels connected to this sound. Houses tremble slightly. The jellyfish fields shimmer faintly, and the kelp forests sway without any wind. Everything moves with the hum. Squidward's window glass vibrates faintly in the distance. Gary twitches in his sleep. Even the Krusty Krab sign hums a little, its letters flickering like they're remembering a dream, too. The volcano song travels everywhere, quiet but powerful, a lullaby for the whole ocean. The camera drifts down again, back toward the cracks, deeper into the light below. Beneath the layers of sand, beneath the ruins, beneath everything, the humming core glows like a sun hidden inside the earth. The magma moves slowly, thick and gentle, not destructive like honey glowing from within. Inside it, Small lights swirl shapes, memories, shadows, faint figures that move like thoughts, like dreams of the sea itself. They twist and merge, forming faint outlines of creatures, long-gone fish made of light, coral spirits, forgotten guardians of the deep. They move in circles around the core, slow and endless, humming in harmony with the volcano's breath. The sound spreads again, flowing upward like warm current. SpongeBob and Patrick don't speak anymore. They just listen. And in the glow that surrounds them, they begin to drift back into sleep this time, not dreaming alone, but inside the dream of the ocean itself. The volcano hums one last time, deeper and softer, wrapping everything in its sound. The sea glows faintly. The current slows, and once again, all of Bikini Bottom falls into a single, shared rhythm, the slow heartbeat of something ancient, sleeping beneath their world. The ocean floor is still glowing, not bright, not sharp, just a soft rhythm of gold and blue moving under the sand. Each pulse spreads in waves, slow enough that you can almost count them, like a heartbeat lulling the whole world to rest. Above, the water carries the glow upward. The light travels through the coral, through empty caves, through cracks in the rocks. It climbs higher and higher, like a secret whisper rising toward the surface. Bikini Bottom, resting above it all, begins to shimmer faintly. The houses gleam as though touched by moonlight from below. Inside his pineapple house, Gary opens one sleepy eye. The shells on the table vibrate softly, making tiny ringing sounds. He blinks once, then slowly curls back into his shell. The sound feels safe, familiar. He hums quietly, almost matching the rhythm. Across town, Squidward's clarinet falls off the table from a soft tremor. It lands with a gentle thud, making a single note, low, hollow, peaceful. He sighs in his sleep, muttering something about music from the ground. The ocean continues to hum. The sound isn't just below anymore. It's everywhere. It's in the water, in the coral, in the air bubbles, in the way everything moves. And deep beneath, the volcano listens to itself. Its heart, the molten core, turns slowly, every motion sending out a ripple of light. The magma swirls like slow fire caught in a dream. Inside the glow, strange shapes move like echoes of the past, still floating through time. Each pulse carries with it a memory, fragments of the ocean's earliest days. One ripple shows a vision, a world before Bikini Bottom, before houses, before jellyfish nets and spatulas. The sea was empty then, full of silence and golden mist. The volcano's hum was the first sound. It called life into being, one vibration at a time. Coral began to grow, soft and bright. Tiny organisms drifted toward the warmth, drawn like moths to a flame. And from the hum, the sea learned to sing. Now, so many ages later, the hum has returned, not loud, not violent, just gentle, like it's remembering how everything began. Back near the cavern, SpongeBob's eyes flicker open again. He's floating slightly off the ground, the warmth holding him up like a slow-moving current. Patrick drifts nearby, still asleep, snoring softly. His body moves with the rhythm of the hum, rising and falling gently with each pulse. The jellyfish glows above them both, pulsing in perfect harmony. SpongeBob's gaze follows the light coming from beneath the sand. It's different now, smoother, stronger, steady like a drumbeat underwater. He tilts his head and whispers, "You're not just dreaming anymore, are you?" The hum answers with a low tone, deep enough to shake the coral dust loose. It feels almost like a yes. Tiny shards of old shell rise from the ground, spinning in the glow. They catch the light, and scatter it like stars, filling the water with drifting sparkles. The entire cavern looks like a sky turned upside down. SpongeBob drifts upward slightly, drawn toward it. His reflection glimmers across the glowing walls, bending with the current. He stretches his arms out, fingers brushing through the floating dust. Every movement sends small ripples through the light. The hum softens again, like it's watching him. Then a sound faint, almost like a whisper, passes through the water. "Listen," it says. Not in words, but in feeling. The current slows. SpongeBob stops moving. He closes his eyes, floating completely still. The hum vibrates through his body, through his arms, through his heart. Images appear behind his eyelids. Not clear, not real, just colors, shapes, warmth. He sees coral rising like cities, glowing rivers, bubbles that never burst. He sees old creatures made of light swimming through endless blue. And then, deep at the center of it all, the volcano. Not roaring, not burning, just breathing slowly, endlessly. It hums once more, and the images fade. SpongeBob opens his eyes again. The water looks the same as before, but somehow deeper, like he can see more of it now, even though nothing's changed. Patrick floats by, mumbling, "Did we already eat breakfast?" SpongeBob smiles faintly. "No, Patrick. We're inside a dream." Patrick mumbles again. "Can we eat in the dream?" "Maybe later," SpongeBob whispers. He looks down again. The cracks in the ground have widened. The light glows brighter, reaching farther into the cavern. Something begins to rise, not lava, but light itself, swirling upward like liquid gold. It moves gently, forming thin streams that twist and curl in the water. They drift like ribbons, wrapping around coral and shells, glowing softly. SpongeBob reaches out again. When he touches one, it feels warm, not hot, but alive. The warmth moves through his hand, up his arm, into his chest. The hum changes slightly, higher, lighter. It's as if the volcano recognizes him now. Patrick floats closer, still sleepy. "Is it friendly?" "Yeah," SpongeBob says softly. "It's not angry, it's singing again." Patrick listens for a moment, nodding. "It's kind of catchy." He starts humming along, off-key, completely out of rhythm. The volcano's hum wobbles slightly, like it's laughing. SpongeBob giggles. "I think it likes you." Patrick yawns proudly. "Everybody likes me." The ribbons of light continue to move, rising higher toward the ceiling of the cavern. They twist together, forming a faint spiral, a slow-moving whirlpool made of color. It looks like a doorway, a tunnel of soft light stretching downward toward the core. SpongeBob watches it form, eyes wide. He doesn't feel scared. He feels invited. The hum deepens again, stronger, slower. It vibrates through the walls, through the sand, through every bubble in the water. The spiral grows wider. Its center glows white for a moment, then fades to gold. SpongeBob whispers, "It's opening." Patrick blinks sleepily. "What's opening?" "The core." Patrick squints at it. "Oh, cool." Then he falls asleep again. SpongeBob smiles, then turns back to the spiral. He floats closer, letting the current pull him gently forward. The light shines brighter as he nears, reflecting in his eyes. The hum becomes deeper, more layered, not just one voice, but hundreds, maybe thousands, all blending together in harmony. And the sound feels ancient. It's not a song from this time, or maybe even from this world. He stops just short of the spiral, hovering there. The light flickers once, as if waiting. He whispers softly, "Can I see you?" The hum answers a single, deep vibration that fills the entire cavern. The spiral glows white for a moment, blindingly soft, and then shifts to a calm, pale orange. For an instant, SpongeBob sees through it. He sees the core again, deeper this time, swirling magma, glowing rivers, shapes of memory moving through the light. And in the very center of it all, something like an eye, not watching, not judging, or just aware. The hum slows again, gentle, kind. The light pulses once more, sending another wave of warmth through the ocean. Patrick drifts closer, still snoring, the jellyfish following quietly behind. The spiral fades slowly, sinking back into the sand like a dream dissolving. The hum returns to its calm rhythm. The volcano goes quiet again. Not gone, just resting. Perfect. Here's SpongeBob and Patrick float in the glow of the sleeping volcano. This section deepens the lore. The hum starts resonating through the sea, showing connections between the volcano and all living things dreamlike, ancient, slow. The water is calm again, completely still, like the ocean has fallen back into a dream. The glow from below fades into soft ripples that drift across the sand. SpongeBob lies back, floating above the warmth, staring into the dark blue above. The hum remains gentle, low, repeating itself like a soft lullaby that never truly ends. Patrick is fast asleep again, drifting slowly in circles, a bubble trail rising from his mouth. The jellyfish floats nearby, its glow dim but steady, as if it's listening. SpongeBob closes his eyes and lets the hum move through him. It's not just a sound anymore, it's a feeling. He can sense it inside his body, in the water around him, even in the tiny bits of coral dust floating past. The volcano isn't separate from the sea. It is the sea. Its heartbeat is the same pulse that makes the waves rise and fall above Bikini Bottom. The hum deepens once, echoing through the cavern walls. SpongeBob feels it in his chest. For a moment, the glow brightens again. Then it fades, slower than before. He whispers softly, "You're tired too, huh?" A faint tremor moves through the sand, almost like a chuckle. The water sways once, then returns to stillness. Above them, the current shifts. The glow that once stayed trapped in the deep now travels upward, rising through cracks in the seabed. The pulse of light moves gently through the ocean layers, reaching the world above. It touches the jellyfish fields first. Thousands of jellyfish, sleeping in clusters, suddenly glow, their bodies flickering like lanterns. They don't wake, but they pulse in rhythm with the hum, the entire field moving as one, breathing together. Tiny fish near the kelp forest drift upward, drawn to the warmth. The light glides over their scales, painting them in soft gold. Even the corals near SpongeBob's pineapple home shimmer faintly, opening and closing as if responding to the deep vibration. The whole ocean is humming now, quietly, peacefully. The volcano's dream is being shared. SpongeBob watches the faint lights rise and fade into the dark. He whispers, "It's reaching everyone." Patrick mumbles in his sleep. "Even Squidward?" SpongeBob chuckles. "Yeah, even Squidward." He imagines Squidward's house trembling slightly, the clarinet vibrating in tune with the hum. And maybe, just maybe, Squidward's frown softening a little as he sleeps. SpongeBob smiles, closing his eyes again. He drifts deeper into thought, or maybe into the same dream the ocean is dreaming. The water grows warmer, the hum steadier. The sound changes slightly, it gains a faint melody. It's not clear, but it feels like a song that's been waiting to be heard for a very long time. Notes rise and fall within the vibration, each one carrying a color, red, orange, yellow, gold. The entire cavern glows with the rhythm. Light pours through cracks, bending like smoke. And within that glow, SpongeBob begins to see images. They're faint, blurry at first, but slowly they take shape. He sees waves crashing against cliffs made of coral. He sees ancient creatures swimming across glowing rivers of magma that flow like water. He sees plants growing from fire, turning to coral the moment they touch the sea. And deep at the center of it all, the volcano itself. It wasn't always sleeping. Long ago, it sang openly. It filled the ocean with warmth, building the first reefs and caves, shaping everything that now rests above it. The hum was once its voice, and when the ocean learned the song, it began to sing it too. That's how the sea learned to live. SpongeBob watches, mesmerized. In his mind, he can see the volcano's light reaching the surface, the first creatures waking to its rhythm, the sea glowing for miles. And then slowly the song faded. The volcano grew quiet, sinking into rest. Its hum became a heartbeat beneath the world forgotten, but still there. Now it was waking again, softly, carefully, as if testing whether the ocean still remembered the words. SpongeBob places his hand on the sand again. The warmth spreads through his palm. He says quietly, "We remember." The hum deepens in response, one long, low tone that fills the entire cavern. Patrick opens one sleepy eye. "Who are you talking to?" "The volcano," SpongeBob whispers. "It's dreaming about the beginning of everything." Patrick rubs his eyes. "That sounds boring." SpongeBob laughs softly. "No, it's beautiful." The jellyfish floats closer, glowing brighter again, its tentacles waving slowly like strands of music. The hum matches its rhythm perfectly. Each pulse of light passes through it, turning the jellyfish into a prism of glowing colors. It circles SpongeBob once, then drifts upward following the current. SpongeBob watches as it disappears into the distance, the faint glow fading like a falling star. He looks down again. The sand has started to shift, not from shaking, but from movement beneath. Something is rising again. Not the spiral this time, but small, glowing orbs like pieces of the core drifting upward. They float out of the cracks, one by one, hundreds of them, glowing softly. Each orb rises, leaving trails of golden mist that slowly fade. They move towards SpongeBob and Patrick, swirling gently around them, circling like planets around a tiny sun. Patrick opens both eyes now, watching the glowing shapes. "Whoa!" SpongeBob smiles. "They're dreams. The volcano's dreams." Patrick stares. "They look like marshmallows." SpongeBob giggles. "Yeah, magic marshmallows." The orbs continue to move upward through the cavern's ceiling, disappearing into the ocean above. Each one carries a piece of the hum with it, a soft tone that fades into the distance. Together, they form a melody so faint it's almost silent, but it fills everything. Bikini Bottom glows softly from above, lights flickering in rhythm with the hum. The jellyfish fields pulse once more, then fall still. Everything is calm. The volcano rests again, but this time its warmth remains spread across the sea like a blanket of sound and light. SpongeBob floats, arms stretched out, staring upward. It's sharing its dream. Patrick yawns. "Hope it dreams about sandwiches." SpongeBob laughs quietly, the sound blending perfectly with the hum. The cavern slowly dims again. The golden light fades to pale blue. The ripples flatten. The hum continues, but softer now, like it's drifting farther away. The cracks in the ground close little by little, sealing the glow beneath. Tiny fish return, weaving between coral fragments, their bodies reflecting faint traces of light. Everything feels the same as before, but not quite. The air, the water, the silence, All of it feels heavier with memory. Like the sea has remembered something it lost a long time ago. Patrick drifts near SpongeBob again, bumping into him softly. "Hey," SpongeBob says quietly. "Did you feel that?" Patrick blinks slowly. "Feel what?" "The hum. It's fading, but it's still there." Patrick closes his eyes. "Yeah, feels like nap time." He drifts off again, his bubbles rising in perfect rhythm with the faint, slow beat beneath the ocean floor. SpongeBob watches him, smiling. The ocean feels still again, but not silent. There's a warmth in the water now, soft, glowing, steady. The hum from below has changed. It's not as deep or strong anymore. It's calm, like a heartbeat slowing down after a long sigh. The light fades to a low golden hue. It drifts lazily through the cavern, brushing the coral walls and sliding across the sand. The glow feels alive but sleepy. Everything does. SpongeBob lies on the warm sand again, half awake. His eyes move slowly, watching small ripples form around his hands. Patrick is still floating nearby, snoring softly. Bubbles escaping his mouth in perfect rhythm with the hum. The jellyfish rests between them, glowing faint blue. Every few seconds it flickers, like a candle fluttering underwater. SpongeBob whispers, "It's getting quieter." The hum answers faintly, a soft echo that trembles through the ground. He closes his eyes again. "It's okay," he says softly. "You can rest." The cracks on the ocean floor pulse one last time, the light tracing their edges before dimming completely. The ribbons of light that once danced through the cavern fade into dust, dissolving back into the water. But the warmth stays. It's not the heat of fire, it's the kind that feels like sunlight through deep water, gentle and endless. A Bikini Bottom above lies in deep peace. No bubbles rise too quickly. No current rushes through. Everything has slowed. In jellyfish fields, the jellyfish move in slow circles, their tendrils glowing faintly, like the volcano's pulse is still somewhere inside them. In the kelp forest, soft lights travel up the stems, dimming in waves. Even the sand in front of the crusty crab glows for a second before fading. The hum's memory lingers everywhere, not in sound, but in rhythm. Back in the cavern, SpongeBob opens his eyes. The world looks darker now, but in a comfortable way. The water feels thicker, heavier, like it's wrapping everything in a quiet blanket. He turns his head toward Patrick. Patrick is dreaming, his mouth curved in a small smile. He mumbles something about pancakes again, then giggles softly. SpongeBob laughs quietly, too. "Same dream," he whispers. The volcano hums again one last time, low and kind, almost like it's laughing with them. SpongeBob looks down at the sand, then back toward the ceiling of the cavern. Above them, faint trails of bubbles rise, glowing silver against the darkness. He breathes slowly, letting the water move around him. It feels like being inside a heartbeat surrounded by warmth and calm. The hum begins to fade more now. It grows quieter, lower, until it's almost gone, just a soft vibration in the chest. The coral's glow fades completely. The ocean turns back to its deep blue. Patrick's snoring grows softer, mixing with the slow rumble of the sea. SpongeBob closes his eyes again. But even as the world darkens, he can still see the light, not outside, but inside. A faint orange glow that moves behind his eyelids. The memory of the core still humming somewhere far below. He imagines it now, curled deep inside the earth, a giant sleeping heart surrounded by golden magma, breathing softly in its dreams. He whispers, "Sleep well." The sound fades into bubbles. For a moment, it feels like everything in the ocean hears it and answers. Soft ripples form on the sand, spreading outward like invisible hands brushing through the water. The warmth spreads once more through the sea, a final wave of calm. Then stillness. The jellyfish blinks its light twice, then drifts upward slowly, its body glowing fainter with each pulse. It rises until it vanishes into the dark above. SpongeBob watches it go, eyelids growing heavy. He wants to follow it, but his body feels too light to move. His head sinks back onto the sand. His arms float slightly at his sides. The hum is almost gone now, just a vibration in the bones, softer than a whisper. The cavern is completely dark except for the faintest shimmer of gold deep under the sand. Bubbles rise once, then stop. Patrick mumbles in his sleep. 5 more minutes. SpongeBob's voice is barely a breath. Yeah, me too. The hum gives one final sigh, a low, long note that fills the whole ocean before fading. And then silence. The kind of silence that isn't empty, the kind that's full of peace, full of meaning, full of dreams. The volcano is asleep again. But something has changed. Somewhere in its dreams it remembers them. The small yellow sponge who spoke softly. The pink star who slept through the hum. The laughter that reached its core even for a moment. It carries those sounds now, buried deep in its molten heart. Their laughter becomes part of its lullaby. And the sea will remember too. In the days to come, every current will carry a faint rhythm, every bubble, every wave, every sound. None of them will be loud, but all will echo the same hidden tune. The heartbeat of the volcano beneath Bikini Bottom. A heartbeat that hums only when the world is quiet enough to listen. The camera drifts slowly away from the cavern, up past the coral, past the fields, through the blue. Bikini Bottom looks peaceful, bathed in a soft underwater dawn. No one knows what happened below. They don't need to. They just feel it. The crusty crab sign sways slowly. The golden arches glowing faintly before going still. The seaweed moves in rhythm. The jellyfish field glimmers, then returns to calm. The ocean exhales once more, gentle and deep. A few fish pass by, their tails flicking through the fading glow. None of them seem afraid. They swim slower than usual, like they're following a song only they can hear. The view moves higher still through the quiet blue layers, into the shimmer where the sun barely reaches. Light filters down, touching the top of the ocean, like fingertips through glass. And somewhere far below, the last echo of the hum fades completely. Silence again. But if you listen closely, very closely, it's still there. Not as sound, but as rhythm inside the water, inside the world, inside every sleeping creature. The hum has become part of the sea's heartbeat now. SpongeBob shifts slightly in his sleep. His body moves with the water's motion, up and down, slow and peaceful. SpongeBob is asleep, but it's not the same kind of sleep anymore. It's deeper, calmer, filled with tiny lights that drift around him like stars. Each one flickers, hums, and fades tiny sparks from the volcano's heart, floating up through the sea. He floats between them, eyes half open, smiling faintly. He doesn't know if he's dreaming, or if the dream has become real. It doesn't matter. Both feel the same now. Patrick drifts beside him, rolling softly in the current. His arms move gently with the water, like seaweed swaying in a slow dance. Sometimes he murmurs things that don't make sense. Pancake bubbles, sparkly jellyfish, warm marshmallows. But the ocean seems to understand. The bubbles rise in response, wrapping him in circles of light. Far below where the volcano once hummed, faint ribbons of gold move through the cracks. They're slower now, no longer glowing hot, just warm, like candlelight in a quiet room. The hum has turned into a lullaby, too soft to hear, but still there in the bones of the sea. The coral walls pulse gently. Each beat sends a shimmer through the water, spreading out like ripples in a dream. It feels like the whole ocean is breathing together. SpongeBob opens his eyes fully. He sees the lights floating around him, soft spheres drifting like glowing bubbles. He reaches out to touch one. It presses against his hand, warm and alive. Inside the light, he sees tiny moving shapes, like memories captured in glass. A small Krabby Patty sizzling on the grill. Gary sliding across the kitchen floor. Patrick laughing with a popsicle in hand. The jellyfish fields glowing under moonlight. Each light holds a memory, and each memory glows brighter the longer he looks. He lets go, and the bubble drifts upward, joining hundreds of others. Patrick wakes up a little, squinting through the golden water. "Whoa," he says slowly. "Are we, inside a dream?" SpongeBob shrugs softly. "Maybe the ocean's dream," he answers. Patrick smiles. "That's a big dream." They float together, watching the golden bubbles rise. Some burst softly, leaving tiny trails of sparkle that fade into the distance. Above them, the water glows a pale pink. It's not sunrise, it's something else, something from deep inside. It's like the sea remembering what light feels like. Fish made of light swim by, transparent and slow. Their bodies shimmer like glass, their tails leaving thin silver trails. One of them circles SpongeBob and Patrick before fading into dust. Patrick waves after it. "Bye, shiny fish." "It's so quiet," SpongeBob says softly. Patrick nods. "Yeah, I like it." They keep drifting. The water gets warmer as they go deeper, but not hot. It's the warmth of being close to something alive, something dreaming. Small fragments of lava float past them, smooth, glowing, harmless. They drift like golden leaves falling through the water. When they touch the sand, they dissolve into soft light, spreading warmth through the ground. It's peaceful. No rumble, no shaking, no danger. Just a calm afterglow, the sea's slow heartbeat. The volcano is still sleeping, but its dreams are leaking into the ocean. Dreams made of color and memory, of laughter and stillness. Patrick catches one of the glowing fragments. It feels weightless. Inside, he sees something, a tiny vision of them, both sitting outside the Krusty Krab eating ice cream. "Hey," he says quietly, "this one remembers us." SpongeBob smiles. "They all do." The current moves slower now, like time itself is tired. Everything drifts in rhythm, the bubbles, the lights, their movements. It feels like being inside a giant heartbeat. The coral around them begins to change color, too. Faint streaks of gold and violet spread along its surface, wrapping around each branch like soft veins of light. Tiny creatures crawl along it, glowing faint blue, carrying specks of warmth from place to place. The entire sea seemed to be carrying the volcano's dream outward, sharing it piece by piece. SpongeBob turns slowly, looking up. He can see the faint silhouette of Bikini Bottom above, blurred, gentle, distant. It's glowing faintly, too, the light reaching up through the sand and buildings, touching every corner. Inside each home, the glow settles quietly. In Squidward's house, it dances along the windows, turning his clarinet into a glimmering outline. In the Krusty Krab, it flickers through the kitchen, making the grill shimmer like a small sun. In the Pineapple House, it moves through the walls, brushing against Gary's shell. The snail stirs once, then curls tighter, glowing faintly in his sleep. Everything is dreaming. Patrick's voice drifts softly through the calm. "Do you think the volcano's happy now?" SpongeBob nods slowly. I think it just needed to remember how to dream. The golden lights move past them again, hundreds of tiny orbs rising like bubbles of thought. Some carry memories, some just warmth, some glow with no reason at all, just to glow. The deeper they go, the softer it gets. The colors blur into each other, gold, pink, violet, blue. It's like being inside a living painting. Patrick closes his eyes again, letting the current rock him gently. It feels like a lullaby. SpongeBob looks at him, smiling softly. Yeah, the sea's lullaby. They float in silence again. The hum is gone, but the rhythm remains the steady, quiet pulse that feels like breathing. Time passes, but they can't tell how much. The dream doesn't have time. It only has motion and light. The ocean sighs, releasing tiny streams of bubbles that drift upward, catching bits of golden glow before fading. SpongeBob reaches out again, letting one land in his palm. It glows brighter, showing him one last image, a giant heart made of light, beating deep beneath the sand. SpongeBob opens his eyes again, but this time he isn't in the cavern anymore. He's floating above a wide field of glowing sand. Each grain shines faintly like the remains of starlight. Patrick drifts nearby, still asleep, his arms moving slowly as if he's swimming through clouds. The water feels lighter here, warmer. And from far below, faint streams of lava flow like rivers of light, gentle, glowing, harmless. They move through cracks in the earth, weaving through coral pillars and long-forgotten ruins. The ruins are beautiful now, not broken. Arches made of stone shimmer faintly, carved with old symbols of the sea spirals, shells, tiny suns. The volcano's dream paints them with gold and red, turning the ancient shapes into living things again. SpongeBob drifts closer, brushing his hand over one of the pillars. The surface feels alive, soft, and warm, like the skin of something breathing. Light spreads where his fingers touch, forming faint lines that travel upward until they fade into the water above. He feels something familiar in the warmth. Not just the volcano's heartbeat, something else. The same warmth he feels when he wakes up early and watches jellyfish float across the morning light. The same warmth as laughing with Patrick over burnt marshmallows. It's that kind of peace. Behind him, a low sound hums again. It's not the old rumble. It's softer, smoother, a deep note that vibrates through the water, turning it into music. The ocean begins to move with the sound. Waves of light ripple through the sand, forming patterns that shimmer like the surface of the sea. Patrick finally opens his eyes, yawning underwater. Bubbles drift from his mouth, glowing as they rise. Are we still dreaming? He asks quietly. Yeah, SpongeBob says, but it feels real. Patrick looks around slowly, eyes wide. It's like the inside of a seashell, made of fire. SpongeBob laughs softly. Lava shell. Patrick nods like it makes perfect sense. Lava shell, he repeats. They start moving forward together, drifting through the glowing ruins. Their reflections ripple along the coral walls. Each step or float they take sends soft rings of light outward like the sea is responding to them. As they pass an archway, something changes. The water ahead shimmers differently, as if made of memory instead of sea. They float closer and through it. Suddenly, they're not in the ruins anymore. They're in jellyfish fields, but it's glowing, covered in soft pink light. The jellyfish drift slower, their tentacles glowing gold instead of blue. Every blade of seagrass sways in rhythm with the same heartbeat that fills the ocean. Patrick laughs softly. Look, it's our home. Or it's dream of it, SpongeBob says. The light here feels thicker, almost like air. When SpongeBob breathes, it shimmers around his mouth, spreading tiny ripples outward. It feels safe. He walks, or thinks he does, across the glowing field. Each step lights up the ground for a moment, leaving behind fading footprints made of light. Patrick follows, leaving glowing star shapes where he steps. He giggles quietly. "Look, I'm glowing." "You always were," SpongeBob says, smiling. They keep walking through the dream. The jellyfish follow, forming slow patterns in the water circles, spirals, waves. Their glow pulses softly, matching the rhythm of the volcano's deep dream. In the distance, faint shapes begin to appear. The outline of the Krusty Krab, the Pineapple House, Squidward's moai-shaped home. But they're not real buildings. They're made of light and memory, rising from the sand like gentle ghosts. They look calm and alive, like they're breathing with the sea. SpongeBob reaches out toward his house. The door ripples when he touches it, glowing softly. Through the shimmering walls, he sees Gary sleeping inside, his shell glowing faint blue. The sight makes him smile. Patrick looks at the Krusty Krab. "Think Mr. Krabs is dreaming, too?" "Probably about money," SpongeBob laughs. Patrick chuckles. Even his dreams are shiny. They both laugh quietly, and the sound turns into bubbles that float upward, glowing like tiny suns. The laughter feels different here. It echoes longer, spreading through the dream like warm water. The volcano must feel it too, because the hum deepens, softer but fuller now, as if it's smiling beneath them. They walk toward the horizon, which is glowing in waves of orange and violet. Each pulse of light feels like a breath, slow and calm. "It's like the ocean's remembering everything," SpongeBob says softly. Patrick nods. "Yeah, it's remembering us too." As they move farther, the dream changes again. The sky, or what feels like the sky, begins to ripple. The pink fades into red, then gold, then pale white. The light doesn't hurt their eyes. It feels cool and gentle, like snow made of glow. Small particles float around them, like glowing dust. When they touch it, it sticks to their fingers and dissolves. Patrick tries to catch a handful, giggling. "It's warm, like soft cookies." "Lava cookies," SpongeBob says. Patrick laughs loudly. "Lava cookies! That's my new favorite." Their laughter travels through the glowing dust, and each sound creates another pulse of light. The more they laugh, the brighter the sea becomes. And deep below, the volcano stirs a little, not awake, but dreaming brighter. Streams of light rise from the cracks again, joining the glow above. They swirl around SpongeBob and Patrick, soft golden ribbons that twirl through the water. Patrick reaches out and catches one. It coils around his arm like a bracelet before fading. He stares at it, smiling. It feels like a hug. SpongeBob looks up at the lights moving around them, thousands of them now, all warm and slow. "Maybe the volcano's hugging the whole ocean," he says. Patrick nods sleepily. Then it's a big hug. The water around them grows even softer. The sound fades until only the heartbeat remains slow, steady, deep. It doesn't feel far away anymore. It feels close, like it's part of them. Patrick starts to drift upward again, his body relaxed. SpongeBob follows, letting the current take him. The field, the ruins. The ribbons of light all start to blur beneath them. The light around them shifts again, softer and older somehow. Colors change from gold to amber, from amber to a deep crimson that glows like fading fire. The warmth becomes a memory in itself, not heat, but the feeling of being close to something sacred. SpongeBob blinks slowly. He's standing now and not floating. The sand beneath his feet feels warm, smooth, almost solid. The water is clearer, lighter, shimmering with golden dust that floats in slow spirals. Patrick stands beside him, rubbing his eyes. Where are we now? SpongeBob looks around. I think we're inside the volcano's dream. In front of them stretches a vast valley, not dark, but glowing from within. The ground hums faintly, veins of light moving like gentle lava rivers under the sand. Giant coral trees glow with red branches, their tips shining like stars. And far ahead, there's a mountain man, tall, round, sleeping, made of shimmering glassy stone. The volcano. It doesn't look dangerous. It looks peaceful, like an old creature resting after a long day. SpongeBob and Patrick start walking toward it. Each step leaves a small burst of light behind, fading quickly. The hum grows softer as they approach, deep and steady like a slow heartbeat echoing through the sea. It's beautiful, Patrick says quietly. Yeah, SpongeBob answers, his voice full of awe. It's like it's dreaming of being calm. They keep walking. The coral trees sway even though there's no current. Glowing fish swim in circles around them, leaving trails of light like brushstrokes in the water. One of the fish stops in front of SpongeBob. Its body is made of pure light. Its eyes small golden dots. It tilts its head, almost curious, then swims in a slow circle around him before vanishing in a shower of sparks. Patrick laughs softly. It liked you. I think it remembers us, SpongeBob says. The hum changes for a moment, a low, rising note, like a sigh. The volcano glows brighter at the top, and faint ripples move through the valley, golden waves rolling across the sand. As the waves pass, the landscape changes. The coral trees fade into glowing outlines, the lava rivers turn to streams of soft light. The sky, or what feels like the ocean, ceiling above, begins to shimmer with ancient images. SpongeBob and Patrick look up. They see scenes floating above them, faint, transparent, moving like reflections on the water. There are shapes of jellyfish glowing in the night, millions of years ago. Creatures older than any they've seen drifting slowly through light and darkness. A vast seafloor covered in glowing coral. And then the volcano itself, alive and awake, glowing like the sun under the sea. It breathes light through cracks in its sides, sending waves of warmth across the ocean floor. Everything around it flourishes coral blooms, fish glow brighter, currents move gently. Patrick whispers, It was awake. Yeah, SpongeBob said. And it wasn't angry. It was alive. They watched the vision shift again. The volcano breathes, its light rising and falling. Then, over time, the glow fades. The coral still glows, but softer now. The hum slows. The volcano sighs, wants a deep, heavy breath, and settles into stillness. The vision fades into sparkles that fall slowly like golden snow. SpongeBob reaches out, catching one of the falling lights. When he holds it, he hears a faint echo laughter, far away. Not human, not fish, but something big and kind. The voice hums softly before fading. Patrick catches one too, staring into it with wide eyes. It's like it's showing us what it dreams about. Maybe, SpongeBob says softly, we're part of that dream now. The hum continues, steady and slow. It feels like a giant heartbeat beneath their feet. They stand together, surrounded by faint waves of light that move like breathing. SpongeBob looks up again, watching the images fade. The last thing he sees is the volcano surrounded by bright coral glowing in peace, asleep under the sea. The light above fades completely, leaving only the glow of the sand and their own reflections. Patrick looks down. I can see us glowing in the sand. SpongeBob laughs. It's reflecting our light. Patrick grins. So we're light too now. Maybe everyone is, SpongeBob says. Maybe the whole ocean is made of light, just sleeping inside it. They sit down on the warm ground. It's soft, like resting on a giant pillow made of glow. Patrick yawns. I could nap forever here. Me too, SpongeBob says quietly. They both lie back, staring at the dim red glow of the volcano in the distance. Bubbles rise slowly from the cracks nearby, drifting past their heads. Each one shines faintly, showing small pictures inside memories of Bikini Bottom, tiny pieces of their world carried into the volcano's dream. One bubble shows Squidward playing his clarinet under the moonlight. Another shows Sandy writing in her journal, smiling at a floating robot. Another shows Plankton asleep, his tiny dream bubble floating above the chum bucket. Patrick giggles softly. It's everyone. The ocean's dreaming about everyone. SpongeBob nods. It's remembering them all. The bubbles keep rising, filling the space above with soft silver light. For a moment it feels like the stars have come underwater. The hum grows even softer now. It's not a sound anymore. It's a feeling. It beats through their hearts, slow and steady, until their breathing matches it. Patrick whispers. It feels like it's breathing with us. Yeah, SpongeBob murmurs. It's all connected. They close their eyes again. The warmth seeps through everything, the sand, the coral, their skin. The ocean seems to sway around them, like a lullaby made of water and memory. As they rest, the dream shifts again. They see faint glimmers forming on the edges of their vision, outlines of shapes made of light. The volcano again. But now it's smaller, softer, glowing like a heart inside a shell. Its breath slows. Its hum fades to a whisper. And from its core, small trails of gold drift outward like thoughts, like dreams, floating toward the sea above. One of them drifts past SpongeBob's face. He reaches out and touches it gently. It's warm, not hot, not burning, just perfectly warm. The glow spreads softly through the underwater mist. Lava flows turn translucent, almost like threads of memory weaving through the ocean's sleep. The volcano dreams of the time when it was not a volcano at all, but a mountain that touched the sky before the sea rose and claimed it. The dream shows long, slow waves wrapping around its body, cooling the fire within. The lava that once roared now hums like a lullaby. Every ember becomes a memory, every bubble a whisper from the past. SpongeBob drifts in the middle of the light. He feels the warmth, but not the heat, just a calm pulse, like the rhythm of a giant heartbeat under his fins. The ocean around him bends gently as if time itself is softening. He reaches out and touches one of the glowing streams. It feels alive, as if the volcano's thoughts are moving through it. He sees images within the flow coral forests growing over cooled stone, creatures building homes on ancient lava ledges, the sea learning to live with fire. The dream changes again. Lava turns into soft ribbons of light, rising and curling through the water like glowing kelp. They sway gently, brushing against SpongeBob's hands, his face, his thoughts. Patrick floats nearby, spinning slowly, bubbles escaping from his mouth like sleepy sighs. His eyes half open, he murmurs something that the ocean swallows whole. He looks peaceful, like a starfish drifting through a dream. The volcano's hum deepens. It echoes through the caverns and into the light. The glow brightens with every pulse. The colors shift from gold to red to deep amber, and then to a strange blue like the color of old fire. SpongeBob watches the colors swirl around him. They move together like dancers in slow motion. The light bends, forming shapes, first waves, then spirals, then faces made of flickering embers. The faces look kind, gentle, ancient. They seem to smile before fading back into mist. The dream feels endless. The water has no surface, no bottom, only color and warmth. SpongeBob begins to feel as though he's floating through someone's memory. Maybe the volcano itself is remembering everything it has ever seen, all the centuries of quiet, all the moments of fire, all the nights of silence under the sea. In one moment, the dream shifts again. SpongeBob finds himself walking, though he doesn't know how, across a glowing seafloor made of crystal. Each step leaves a ripple of light. Above him, the ocean shimmers with waves of firelight, but it doesn't burn. It soothes. The walls of the dream tremble softly. Lava flows overhead like clouds drifting in slow motion. From their edges, drops of molten light fall into the sand and bloom into flowers, coral made of light, breathing slowly. He bends down to touch one. It feels soft and warm, like a heartbeat. The petals pulse gently, glowing brighter each time he exhales. Patrick appears beside him again, holding one of the flowers in both hands. It's like the volcano is dreaming about being alive, he says, his voice sleepy but clear. SpongeBob nods. Maybe it never stopped being alive. Maybe it's just thinking in its sleep. They both stand there for a while, watching the glowing coral expand and drift upward like lanterns. Each flower floats away, joining hundreds of others until the entire sea seems to be filled with them. The volcano's dream becomes a sky of light beneath the water. The hum changes again, deeper now, steadier, more peaceful. The ground stops trembling. The lava clouds calm, their colors fading to soft orange and gold. SpongeBob lies down on the glowing sand, his head resting on his arm. Patrick lies beside him. They watch the glowing coral drift upward like stars returning to the surface. The dream slowly folds into itself. The walls of the cavern stretch farther and farther, becoming endless. The hum fades to a whisper. The warmth turns into stillness. Now there is only the sound of their breathing, the rise and fall of the sea, the quiet pulse of the volcano's heart. The dream shows them one last vision, a single drop of molten light falling from the ceiling, landing on the ocean floor. Where it touches, coral begins to grow. Tiny, delicate branches curl outward, glowing with golden dust. The volcano dreams of creation, of calm, of beauty rising from what once was fire. SpongeBob closes his eyes. The ocean around him turns completely silent. Patrick's soft snoring mixes with the hum of the deep. The volcano continues to breathe beneath them, slow, ancient, eternal. Its dreams spill into the sea like rivers of light, spreading peace across every ripple, every shell, every quiet corner of Bikini Bottom. The scene softens into darkness. Only faint trails of light remain, glowing in curved lines through the deep, slowly fading like distant constellations beneath the waves. SpongeBob's outline is still visible, peaceful, unmoving, surrounded by light. The volcano sleeps deeper now, its dream almost complete, but breathing slow and steady like a giant wrapped in its own warmth. SpongeBob floated near the surface of the cavern, his eyes half closed. Tiny bubbles slipped past his cheeks, drifting upward toward the endless dark. Patrick hovered beside him, twirling slowly, lost in a dream. The light from the walls flickered in rhythm with their movements, Everything felt soft, every sound, every color, every motion. It was then that something began to shimmer in the distance. At first, it looked like light reflecting off water. Then the light moved on its own, slow, graceful, like seaweed, swaying in a current that wasn't there. SpongeBob blinked. The shape grew clearer. They weren't waves. They were figures, glowing outlines, tall and gentle, made of coral and flowing light. They didn't swim. They drifted, as though the ocean itself carried them. 4 of them moved in unison, forming a slow spiral around the sleeping volcano. Their glow pulsed softly with each hum that rose from the earth. Patrick whispered, "They look like, jellyfish angels." SpongeBob smiled faintly. "Maybe they're the ones keeping the volcano asleep." The figures glided closer. They made no sound. Their hands, if they were, hands brushed the water gently, and with every movement, the hum deepened, harmonizing with them. One of the figures floated before SpongeBob. Its face was featureless, but he felt its gaze. The light from its chest pulsed once, and a faint vibration filled the water, a tone so low and calming that it felt like a song sung by the sea itself. The song spread through the cavern. The other figures joined in, their lights weaving together. The sound wasn't made of words. It was made of warmth, a slow lullaby that wrapped around everything. The walls of the volcano began to glow in response. Lines of magma shimmered faintly, pulsing in time with the song. The ground vibrated with soft rhythm. The figures began to move in patterns, swirling gracefully. Trails of light followed behind them, curling through the water like ribbons. Each motion drew a symbol in the air patterns that faded and returned again. The ocean seemed to understand. The volcano understood too. The hum from below deepened, now steady and peaceful. The ground no longer trembled. It felt like the volcano was listening, like a child being sung to sleep by its ancient guardians. SpongeBob and Patrick watched quietly. The light brushed over them, warm but weightless. They didn't move. They didn't need to. The song filled the space between them and everything else. Bubbles rose, catching bits of light as they floated upward. Each bubble seemed to hold an echo of the melody inside it. When they popped, the sound rippled softly through the water, blending perfectly with the harmony. One of the figures extended an arm toward SpongeBob. A thread of light drifted from its fingertips, curling through the water until it touched his chest. The moment it did, he felt a wave of peace spread through him. His heartbeat slowed, his breathing matched the rhythm of the song. He closed his eyes. For a moment he saw something not with his eyes, but somewhere deeper. Images formed in the dark. Coral forests blooming in slow motion, sea currents folding over mountains of stone, stars shining through clear water. He saw the volcano again, not angry or wild, but quiet and alive. He saw creatures living on its surface, shells, crabs, anemones, all sleeping safely above its warmth. The guardian's lullaby was not only keeping the volcano calm, it was keeping the sea alive. When SpongeBob opened his eyes again, the figures were circling wider. Their glow had grown brighter, but not blinding. The water shimmered in waves like golden dust moving through blue silk. Patrick stretched his arms lazily. "I feel them floaty," he mumbled, his voice soft and distant. SpongeBob chuckled quietly. "I think that's the point." The lullaby shifted tone from low hums to higher notes that sparkled like tiny bells. The cavern filled with shimmering sounds, each one melting into the next. The light moved with it, slow and circular, forming spirals that rose toward the ceiling. From those spirals, smaller orbs of light detached, floating gently down toward the volcano's core. When they touched the rock, the magma vein shimmered brighter for a moment before fading again, like a heartbeat falling into rest. The guardians continued their silent ritual. One by one, they bowed slightly toward the volcano, their glowing outlines bending like currents in reverence. The ocean seemed to echo their motion. A gentle current flowed through the cavern, wrapping around SpongeBob and Patrick, spinning them slowly in circles. Neither resisted. They floated along, eyes half closed, their minds soft and heavy with calm. The song seeped into everything, into the coral, into the sand, into the stone, into them. The light dimmed slightly, pulsing in perfect time with the volcano's deep hum. The guardians' outlines blurred, becoming part of the water itself. The lullaby softened to almost nothing, just faint tones fading in and out, like distant echoes of a dream. SpongeBob looked up. The surface of the cavern seemed farther away now, like he was sinking into a deeper kind of quiet. His body felt lighter than ever. Patrick's voice drifted through the glow. "Do you think they ever stop singing?" SpongeBob whispered back, "Maybe not. Maybe this is what keeps the ocean calm while we sleep." The guardians' forms dissolved completely, turning into hundreds of glowing particles that scattered through the water. The particles drifted upward, spreading across the cavern until they looked like a field of stars suspended beneath the sea. The lullaby remained not in sound, but in the way the water moved. Every current now followed a slow rhythm, swaying like the breath of something asleep. SpongeBob and Patrick floated among the lights, eyes closed, listening to a song they could no longer hear, only feel. The glow that filled the cavern began to settle, like dust after a gentle storm. The light particles floated through the quiet water, soft and golden. They looked like fireflies caught in a dream. SpongeBob reached out, letting a few drift past his fingertips. They melted into the water, leaving faint ripples that shimmered briefly before fading. The volcano's hum was slower now, but steady. Every pulse from the ground sent tiny vibrations up through the coral and rock. The ocean felt alive again. Not restless, not loud, just aware, like it knew it was being watched over. Patrick turned slowly, gazing upward. "It's so calm," he whispered, his voice barely a bubble, "like the whole ocean is sleeping." SpongeBob nodded. "I think the guardians made sure it could rest." As they floated in silence, the faint outline of one guardian began to appear again. It wasn't as bright as before, more like a soft echo of light. Its movements were slower now, almost tired but graceful. It drifted closer to the center of the cavern and spread its glowing arms wide. The other guardians began to reappear too, one by one, each emerging from the golden dust. Their lights pulsed faintly, like lanterns in a deep night. Together, they formed a wide circle around the volcano's core. Without words, they began to move again. Their motions were slower than before, less ritual, more dream. Every turn, every sway left behind ribbons of blue and white light that tangled gently together. The hum beneath the sea responded, deeper and warmer. The volcano was listening again. The guardian's light seeped into its surface, glowing through cracks and shapes in the rock. SpongeBob felt the current pulling slightly now, like the ocean was exhaling. He and Patrick drifted closer without swimming, drawn towards the center of the circle. They didn't feel afraid. The guardian's light was soft, protective. It felt like being wrapped in a warm blanket of water. The center of the circle began to shine brighter. Slowly, the rock split open, not violently, but with gentle cracks that released glowing streams. The lava didn't spill or rise. Instead, it formed shapes. SpongeBob and Patrick watched as the light twisted and folded into figures, small glowing creatures made of magma and mist. They looked like fish, but softer, with trails of light flowing behind them. Patrick smiled. Little firefish. The Guardians' glow brightened as they guided the creatures out of the core. The firefish swam in slow circles, their bodies flickering like lanterns. Each one carried a different shade: orange, pink, gold, and deep blue. SpongeBob could feel the warmth spreading through the cavern again, but this time it wasn't heavy or hot. It was comforting, like the warmth of sunlight through the shallow water. The firefish began to circle around the Guardians, moving in smooth spirals that matched the rhythm of the lullaby. The hum grew softer, the light calmer. For a moment, SpongeBob thought he heard something, not a sound, but a feeling turned into music. Words that didn't need to exist, just meaning that flowed through the water. Sleep, sea of light. Rest, old heart. The fire remembers, the tide forgives. The volcano pulsed once more, slow and deep. The golden glow spread through the cavern's walls, reaching every corner. The Guardians moved slower still, their light dimming slightly, but their forms remained steady. Patrick turned his head lazily towards SpongeBob. Do you think they're singing to it? SpongeBob smiled. I think they're singing to everything. He looked around the coral, the sand, the faint outlines of tiny sea creatures nestled in cracks of stone. Everything seemed to sway gently as if caught in the same rhythm. Even the bubbles floating upward moved in time with the hum. The Guardians now gathered the firefish close. The small creatures circled them, weaving between their arms and trails of light. When they touched, sparks of gold scattered like dust in the water. The sparks drifted down toward the volcano's base, settling softly over it. Each spark that touched the rock faded instantly, but left behind a faint glowing mark, like a star pressed into the stone. One by one, the marks multiplied hundreds of tiny, shining points that covered the entire surface of the volcano. From above, it looked like a night sky made of molten light. SpongeBob's eyes widened slightly. It's beautiful. Patrick's voice was a sleepy murmur. Looks like the volcano has stars now. The Guardians began to rise, lifting their arms slowly as if directing the stars upward. The glowing marks shimmered, then detached, floating into the water like golden dust. The cavern filled with light, not bright or blinding, but soft and endless. The sea looked like it was glowing from within. SpongeBob floated on his back, arms open, staring at the golden sky beneath the ocean. He felt no weight, no thought, no time. Only the slow rhythm of the lullaby echoing in every breath. Patrick drifted beside him, his body turning slowly. The corners of his mouth curved in a small, sleepy smile. The Guardians' shapes began to dissolve again, their lights scattering among the glowing particles. It was as if they were returning to the sea itself, their energy merging back into the currents they once protected. The lullaby softened even more until it was no longer a song, but a vibration in the heart of the ocean. The firefish faded too, their lights joining the dust that floated upward. Soon only faint golden mist remained, swirling gently through the cavern. SpongeBob looked toward the volcano one last time. The stone no longer glowed with magma, but with something deeper calm, peace, balance. The Guardians' work was done. SpongeBob turned to Patrick, who had already fallen asleep, floating slowly in the water. He smiled, closing his eyes. The hum of the sea filled his mind, slow and even, like the world breathing around him. The sea had gone completely still. No more tremors, no more glowing cracks, only the soft, low hum of a world at rest. The Guardian's song had faded, but something remained in the water, a vibration, quiet and slow, almost like the ocean remembering a melody it didn't want to forget. SpongeBob drifted within it, eyes closed, body weightless. The water held him like a cradle. Every movement felt softer, slower. He could feel the rhythm through his chest, the same pattern the Guardians had sung, the same heartbeat that kept the volcano calm. Somewhere far away, the light still pulsed through the deep. It moved like the echo of a dream, rolling through the water in long, curved lines. The entire sea shimmered with faint golden dust, spreading far beyond the cavern, beyond the reach of the volcano, out toward the world above. Patrick floated beside him, mumbling in his sleep, his words half bubbles. Warm, fluffy, pancakes. SpongeBob smiled, not opening his eyes. Even the sound of Patrick's sleepy mumble felt like part of the song. A small current drifted past them, not cold, not warm, just smooth. It carried traces of the Guardian's glow, twinkling softly as it passed. SpongeBob turned in the water and followed it. He didn't swim, he just let it guide him. As he moved deeper into the cavern, the walls began to change. What was once dark stone now shimmered with faint mark symbols carved long ago, now glowing softly in the same rhythm as the volcano's heartbeat. He floated closer. The markings weren't words, but they told a story. Lines flowed into shapes of waves, spirals, and coral. He traced one with his hand, and light rippled through it. Suddenly, the cavern around him shifted. The light from the symbols expanded, wrapping around him in a circle of gold and blue. For a moment, everything else disappeared. The sea melted away. The sand faded. Even Patrick vanished from sight. He found himself standing, not floating, on what looked like the surface of an ocean made of light. Above him, instead of a ceiling, there was a vast expanse of glowing mist. It wasn't empty. It was filled with shapes that moved slowly, like memories drifting through time. He could see faint outlines of the Guardians again, but this time they were different. Younger, brighter, their movements more fluid. They glided through the mist like dancers, their hands weaving trails of energy that shaped the sea itself. SpongeBob stood still, watching. He realized this wasn't the present, it was the volcano's memory. The Guardian's memory. He saw them forming coral mountains, stirring clouds of glowing sand that became the first reefs of Bikini Bottom. He saw the volcano's light bursting and calming again, its magma turning into crystal and glass. The Guardians didn't fight it. They soothed it, teaching it to sleep, to dream. The scene shifted. Time flowed differently here, fast, then slow, then still. The Guardians now stood around the volcano, their lights dimmer, their bodies thinner, more transparent. They had sung for centuries, maybe longer, and their strength was fading. SpongeBob felt something tighten in his chest. It wasn't sadness exactly, it was something deeper. Respect. He could feel what they felt, exhaustion mixed with peace. The knowledge that their song would continue even if they couldn't. Their light would linger in the sea, in the volcano's hum, in every ripple of water. The Guardians began to dissolve into mist. Their final glows floated upward, spreading into the sky of light. Those same particles, SpongeBob realized, were the ones he had seen before, drifting through the sea like fireflies. He watched as the last Guardian turned, its form barely visible now. It pressed its hand to the volcano surface, leaving a mark of pure white light. Then it faded completely. The memory ended, like a dream closing its eyes. The light folded inward, shrinking until all that remained was a small, glowing spiral of symbols, the same ones carved into the cavern walls. SpongeBob reached out, and when his hand brushed the spiral, the vision vanished. The real sea returned the soft current, the golden dust, the slow hum. Patrick was still floating nearby, now snoring quietly. The glow around the volcano pulsed faintly, but gently, as if sighing in its sleep. SpongeBob floated there, taking a long breath. He could still feel the echo of the lullaby in his chest. It wasn't just a song, it was a promise. A promise that the Guardians had left behind. And that the ocean would always remember how to rest. He looked around the cavern. The golden dust had settled like snow over the rocks and coral. Tiny creatures were emerging again, snails, little sea worms, jellyfish with soft, glowing edges. They moved peacefully, drawn by the warmth. Life was returning. Quietly, naturally, beautifully. Patrick stirred, blinking slowly. Did I miss anything? SpongeBob smiled. Just everything. Patrick yawned, bubbles floating from his mouth. Cool. They both laughed quietly, the sound echoing softly through the cavern. It didn't disturb the silence, it became part of it. The ocean shifted slightly, a slow current moving past them. It felt like a sigh, long and deep, and the sea breathing after a long dream. SpongeBob looked up at the ceiling, where faint trails of light still drifted upward. Do you think the Guardians are still here? He asked softly. Patrick shrugged. Maybe they are the water now, or the bubbles, or the warm stuff. SpongeBob chuckled. Yeah, maybe. He reached out his hand, catching one of the rising light trails between his fingers. It dissolved instantly, leaving only warmth. The warmth spread through him into his hands, his chest, his mind. It felt like falling asleep in sunlight. Patrick floated closer, already half dreaming again. SpongeBob, he mumbled, his voice thick with sleep. If the ocean can dream, what is a dream about? SpongeBob thought for a moment, then smiled faintly. Maybe it dreams about us. Patrick grinned, eyes still closed. Good dream. And then he drifted off completely, spinning slowly in the glowing water, a trail of tiny bubbles following him upward. SpongeBob watched him go, feeling calm settle deeper into his chest. The volcano hummed again, low and steady, like a heartbeat under the sea. He knew now that this sound wasn't danger, it was comfort. The voice of an old soul resting peacefully beneath their world. The sea outside the volcano was changing. The soft glow that began deep beneath the ocean floor was now spreading far and wide, reaching through coral tunnels, flowing under rocks, and gliding across the sandy plains that led toward Bikini Bottom. Above, the world remained quiet. The houses slept, the jellyfish floated like drifting lanterns, and the waves moved in rhythm with the hum that rose from below. The Guardian's lullaby, though silent now, still lived inside every current. It whispered through the kelp forests and brushed against the edges of seashells. SpongeBob and Patrick floated together, completely still. The warmth that once surrounded the volcano now wrapped gently around them like a blanket. The water had turned into a soft golden haze, and it pulsed faintly, breathing with them. Minutes felt like hours. Hours felt like nothing at all. The ocean had forgotten time. Far away, the first lights of Bikini Bottom flickered. The glow from the volcano reached the town slowly, painting the streets and rooftops with a faint golden shimmer. The Krusty Krab stood silent, its signs swaying in the current, catching the light and reflecting it like a candle underwater. Gary, resting near SpongeBob's window, twitched his eye stalks once before curling tighter into his shell. Even he could feel the peace spreading. The lullaby had touched everything. The corals near Jellyfish Fields glowed softly. The flowers there swayed, even without a breeze. The jellyfish floated slower than usual, their movements long and graceful, their bioluminescent bodies pulsing in perfect rhythm with the deep hum. The volcano's dream had reached the whole sea. Down below, SpongeBob began to stir. His eyes opened halfway, still heavy with calm. The golden light shimmered faintly over Patrick's sleeping face. Everything was quiet, too quiet to even call silence. It was the kind of peace that filled every space where sound might be. SpongeBob turned slightly, watching the volcano surface. The glow had softened to a warm amber. The cracks that once showed magma now looked like glowing vines wrapped around a sleeping creature's body. He thought about the guardians, how they appeared from the light, how they sang without words, how their voices seemed to become part of the sea itself. Now they were gone, but their presence hadn't disappeared. It was everywhere. Maybe that was the point. Maybe they were never meant to be seen forever. Maybe their song had always been meant to fade, so the ocean could learn to keep singing without them. Patrick drifted nearby, snoring softly. SpongeBob smiled. The bubbles from Patrick's nose floated upward and popped gently, each one catching a tiny flash of light before disappearing. SpongeBob looked toward the cavern's mouth. The current had changed. It was moving outward, slow but steady, carrying the guardian's glow into the far ocean. He followed it, letting it guide him through the open tunnel. The water around him was warm, filled with small swirls of golden dust. As he swam upward, the sound of the volcano's hum grew softer, replaced by the faint, endless song of the sea. When he reached the open water, the view took his breath away. The entire ocean floor shimmered like the sky at night. Golden light drifted across coral, rocks, and sand, moving in waves that pulsed gently like sleeping breaths. Shoals of fish glowed as they passed, leaving trails of light that curved like constellations. It looked like the sea had turned itself into a galaxy. SpongeBob turned in slow circles, his eyes wide, his expression calm and full of wonder. For once, he didn't feel the need to speak. There were no words big enough for what he was seeing. Far above, the moonlight filtered through the water, mixing with the golden glow. The two lights merged silver and amber, creating ripples of color that danced through the depths. Patrick floated out of the cavern, rubbing his eyes. "Whoa," he whispered, his voice still thick with sleep. "It's like the sky fell into the ocean." SpongeBob nodded slowly. Maybe it did. They both floated there, side by side, watching as the glow continued to spread. It reached the far edges of the reef, touched the hulls of forgotten shipwrecks, brushed against sleeping whales that drifted through the deep. Everywhere it went, peace followed. The sea was alive with silence. SpongeBob could feel something new forming inside the quiet. A rhythm not just from the volcano, but from everything. The fish, the coral, the waves, even the sand, all breathing together. The lullaby wasn't gone after all. It had become the heartbeat of the ocean itself. He closed his eyes again, letting it flow through him. He imagined the guardian shapes among the waves, not as glowing beings anymore, but as the current, as light, as warmth. He whispered softly, "Thank you." A faint shimmer answered a ripple in the water, gentle and slow, like a final bow. Patrick floated past him, stretching his arms wide. "Feels nice," he mumbled. "Like a big, warm nap." SpongeBob laughed quietly. "Yeah, the ocean's nap." They both drifted upward, letting the current carry them closer to the surface. The golden light followed, rising with them like mist. The surface of the ocean shimmered under the moonlight. The waves were calm, glowing faintly with traces of gold. For a moment, the reflection looked like a mirror, one that showed the sleeping sea below and the silent stars above. both shining the same way. SpongeBob reached the top and floated on his back. He stared at the stars through the water's surface. They seemed to move in rhythm with the glow beneath him. The sky and the sea were breathing together, connected by the same quiet song. Patrick bobbed next to him, already snoring again, bubbles rising and popping softly beside his face. SpongeBob smiled, his eyelids heavy. The sound of the waves mixed with the hum from below, blending into a melody that was almost like the Guardian's lullaby, slower, deeper, eternal. His mind drifted between thoughts and dreams. He saw flashes of coral forest glowing in gold, whales moving through the clouds of light, jellyfish drifting like lanterns through a soft, endless night. He didn't know if he was awake anymore. Maybe it didn't matter. Maybe the whole ocean was dreaming now, and he was part of that dream. The volcano's final pulse rose through the sea, one deep low note that echoed for miles. It wasn't loud. It was a sigh. The Guardian's song had ended, but its memory would stay in every current, every ripple, every quiet night under the sea. SpongeBob's eyes slowly closed. The waves rocked him gently, the stars blurred above, and the last thing he felt was warmth, the same warmth that had filled the deep, the kind of stillness that feels alive, like the world itself is holding its breath. Far below Bikini Bottom, where the sea turns from blue to violet and then to black, the volcano dreamed. The hum that once shook the ocean floor had softened into a slow rhythm, like a pulse fading gently into rest. The glow that spread across the reefs was now pulling back, gathering into the volcano's heart, quiet, peaceful, infinite. SpongeBob floated nearby, half awake, watching the faint light beneath him flicker and fold. Patrick drifted beside him, upside down as always, snoring with a small smile. They looked like two small stars adrift in an endless sky of water. Tiny bubbles rose from the sand, each one glowing for a moment before vanishing. The current was so calm that it didn't even sway the seaweed anymore. Every strand stood tall, motionless, as if waiting for the dream to finish. A single jellyfish glided through the haze, its tentacles glowing faintly with the leftover light of the Guardian's lullaby. It circled SpongeBob once, then descended toward the sleeping volcano. The volcano wasn't rumbling anymore. It wasn't breathing heavily, or trembling, or glowing with molten fire. Instead, it looked serene. The cracks that once shone bright gold were now dim and calm, like fading embers after a long night. From a distance, it almost looked like a giant heart slowing down after a deep sigh. SpongeBob gazed at it, blinking slowly. "Do you think it's, dreaming again?" he whispered. Patrick murmured, half asleep. "Maybe. About pancakes." SpongeBob smiled faintly. "Maybe." But deep inside, he felt something else. The volcano wasn't just resting, it was remembering. The hum that had spread across the sea was now echoing inward, looping back into its core. The dream wasn't over. It was changing. A small swirl of light appeared over the crater, not bright, just a faint silver haze twisting gently in the water. It began to take shape, like smoke turning into memory. Inside it, SpongeBob thought, he saw something fragments of color, faint scenes flickering like reflections through water. He blinked, and the images sharpened. He saw the ocean as it once was, long before Bikini Bottom, before the crusty crab, before the coral grew thick and bright. The sea was darker, rougher, filled with shadows and storms. But in the middle of it all, the volcano glowed brightly, like a lighthouse in an endless night. Lava flowed softly down its sides, lighting the deep with golden fire. And around it, the first coral bloomed tiny glowing structures that reached out like hands toward the warmth. The volcano wasn't a destroyer then. It was a giver, Its warmth created life where there was none. Its hum called creatures toward the light. The ocean had once been cold and empty, and the volcano had dreamed of color, so it made it real. SpongeBob drifted closer, his eyes reflecting the light. The scene moved slowly, as if time inside the dream ran at a different pace. He could see glowing shapes, swimming creatures he didn't recognize, ancient and beautiful, with shells made of light and tails that shimmered like starlight through the waves. Patrick floated beside him, blinking groggily. Whoa, it's like bedtime stories, but underwater. SpongeBob nodded softly. I think this is what it remembers. The volcano's dream deepened. The images grew brighter, warmer. The entire sea shimmered like molten gold, rippling with the gentle waves of creation. SpongeBob and Patrick watched in silence. There was no fear in the scene, only calm, only peace. Every movement was slow and deliberate, like the ocean itself was learning how to exist. The volcano hummed again, a note so low it could barely be heard, but the whole ocean felt it. The sand rose and settled. Coral tips glowed, fish swam closer as if pulled by an invisible tide. Then slowly, the dream began to change. The light dimmed slightly. The colors became deeper, softer amber, copper, rose gold. The shapes of the ancient sea faded, replaced by waves of glowing bubbles drifting toward the surface. Through them, SpongeBob could see something new, the Guardians. They appeared not as glowing beings this time, but as outlines in the light, gentle figures woven from the same warmth that flowed through the volcano's heart. They surrounded the crater, their forms rising and falling like breath. Their voices returned soft, distant, and echoing as though coming from every direction at once. They didn't sing words, they didn't need to. The melody alone said everything. It told of the ocean's beginning, its long silence, and how the volcano's song had filled it with light. It told of the Guardian's promise that when the sea forgot how to rest, the hum would return, and everything would sleep again. The melody was slow, wrapping itself around SpongeBob like a warm current. His body felt lighter, his thoughts slower. Every sound, every shimmer of light blended together into one endless lullaby. Patrick floated upside down again, his arms stretched out, eyes half closed. It's so warm, he whispered. SpongeBob nodded. Yeah, it's like the whole ocean is hugging us. The light pulsed once more. For a second, SpongeBob saw the volcano's core, a single, glowing orb of gold surrounded by drifting trails of magma. It looked alive but peaceful, like a dreamer lost in an endless, comforting sleep. The hum deepened. The water trembled slightly, not with force, but with rhythm, heartbeat slow and strong. The entire sea seemed to breathe with it. SpongeBob reached his hand out, letting the glow touch his fingers. It didn't burn. It just shimmered faintly, like starlight sinking into his skin. And then the light began to fade again, slowly, carefully, like a candle dimming in a gentle breeze. The ancient coral around the volcano dimmed one by one. The Guardian's outlines dissolved into mist. The soft hum grew quieter until it became nothing but a feeling in the water. The dream was ending. SpongeBob looked around, the world slowly returning to its familiar blues and purples. Patrick drifted closer, yawning. Is it gone back to sleep? SpongeBob nodded. Yeah, it's finished dreaming. The volcano's final shimmer spread outward, flowing like a sigh through the ocean. The last of the gold faded into the deep, and the sea turned calm again. The sea was still glowing faintly, as if the dream hadn't completely faded away. The water shimmered with a soft pulse, like the heartbeat of something that had just fallen asleep. The volcano's surface looked calm. No fire, no rumble, only a warm, golden breath drifting upward, mixing into the water and disappearing. SpongeBob floated above the crater, feeling the soft current moving past him. It carried the warmth of the volcano's last dream, slow and light, wrapping around him like a blanket. He closed his eyes, letting it flow through him, feeling the water's quiet rhythm. Patrick was spinning gently in slow circles, eyes half closed, smiling like he was dreaming too. "It's so quiet," he mumbled. "Even my stomach stopped rumbling." SpongeBob chuckled softly, bubbles escaping from his mouth. "That's a first." Patrick shrugged lazily, still floating upside down. Maybe the ocean filled it up. The words faded into the hum that lingered beneath them, faint, steady, endless. It wasn't the volcano anymore. It was the ocean itself now, carrying the dream forward. As SpongeBob drifted higher, he noticed something changing above. The light from the surface was shifting faint lines of silver mixing with soft gold. The sea was beginning to mirror the sky again, blurring the difference between above and below. SpongeBob blinked slowly. He could see faint reflections of stars through the water, or maybe they weren't reflections at all. Maybe the volcano's dream had reached the sky. He looked at Patrick. "Do you ever think the sea and the sky are just the same dream?" Patrick squinted. "Maybe they take turns." SpongeBob smiled. "Yeah, when the sea sleeps, the sky wakes up to watch over it." They floated higher until the crater below was just a dim glow in the distance, a golden heartbeat beneath the waves. Around them, schools of glowing fish passed by slowly, their movements perfectly synchronized. Each one glowed for a second, then dimmed, like blinking stars underwater. The currents moved in soft spirals, forming shapes that looked like constellations, only these were alive, made of coral dust and light. It was as if the volcano's dream had painted the ocean with stars of its own. SpongeBob reached out his hand and watched the lights swirl around his fingers. "It's like the ocean's remembering what it dreamed," he whispered. Patrick nodded sleepily. "I can't even remember what I dreamed last night." "Maybe you're still dreaming," SpongeBob said. Patrick's eyes closed again. "Maybe." The current carried them forward. They passed coral towers covered in tiny glowing specks, like the last embers of a dying fire. Sea plants swayed lazily, their tips reflecting the golden shimmer that remained in the water. Even the sand sparkled faintly when the current brushed over it. Everywhere they looked, traces of the volcano's dream lingered. Not loud or bright, just peaceful. They drifted toward jellyfish fields where the glow was softer still. The jellyfish moved slower than ever, their light faint and sleepy. Each one pulsed in time with the hum of the sea. SpongeBob and Patrick watched as the jellyfish surrounded them. The glow of their bodies created an ocean galaxy, tiny golden lights floating in every direction, endless and calm. SpongeBob closed his eyes again. He could almost hear the guardians' voices hidden inside the current, not singing, but whispering softly through the water. The sea dreams, and we dream with it. The words weren't spoken. They were felt. SpongeBob let go of all thoughts. His mind emptied, replaced only by warmth and stillness. He could feel the volcano's heartbeat far below, fading slower and slower until it matched his own. The surface above shimmered again. The moonlight stretched down through the water, weaving between the jellyfish. The beams looked like golden ribbons falling from the sky. Patrick turned onto his back, eyes half open. "Look, it's like the moon's trying to swim." SpongeBob laughed quietly. Or maybe the volcano's dream reached it. Patrick yawned. Maybe they're sharing dreams now. The sea moved gently as if agreeing. The moon's reflection spread wider, touching everything: coral, fish, rock, sand, turning it all into liquid gold. The whole ocean became one vast mirror, showing the same sky above and below. SpongeBob stretched his arms out, floating in the middle of it all. The line between water and air disappeared. He could no longer tell where the sea ended or where the stars began. It was all one dream. He imagined the volcano still dreaming beneath them. Not of fire, but of peace, of waves and stars of light moving like breath, of the ocean learning how to rest. SpongeBob whispered softly, "Good night." The word echoed faintly through the water, carried by the current until it faded into silence. Patrick turned over again and mumbled something about pancakes before drifting back to sleep. SpongeBob smiled and looked up again. The stars looked closer now. He could almost feel them glowing above him, matching the warmth of the sea below. It was as if the entire universe had turned into one long, endless breath. He thought of the Guardians, how they sang without sound, how their lullaby had become part of the water. Maybe they were out there somewhere, beyond the stars, still singing in their own quiet way. The hum returned for just a second, soft, low, like a final heartbeat, and then vanished completely. SpongeBob didn't move. He didn't need to. The ocean would carry him wherever it wanted. Patrick snored again, small bubbles rising and popping beside him. The jellyfish began to drift upward, their golden light stretching thin until it melted into the silver glow of the moon. The entire scene shimmered like liquid glass. And deep below, the volcano exhaled one final sigh, a plume of soft golden dust that rose and spread, covering the ocean floor in gentle light before dissolving completely. The dream was ending, but its warmth would stay forever. SpongeBob's eyelids grew heavy. The sound of the water, the rhythm of the current, the faint hum in the distance, everything became one long, slow song. He whispered again, barely audible, "Good night, sea." The sea had fallen to perfect rhythm. Every current, every drifting bubble, every faint shimmer of light moved in the same slow breath. The volcano below no longer glowed, but its warmth still lingered, hidden inside the quiet. SpongeBob and Patrick floated in that stillness, surrounded by soft golden dust that drifted through the water like snow. It was peaceful, endless, a world half asleep. Patrick stirred slightly, eyes half open. "Hey, SpongeBob." "Yeah, Patrick?" "Do you think the volcano dreams about us too?" SpongeBob looked down, thoughtful. The crater was far below, barely visible now, just a faint golden shadow resting under miles of calm water. "Maybe it does," he said softly. "Maybe we're part of its dream now." Patrick blinked slowly, trying to think. "So, when I dream about pancakes, does that mean pancakes dream about me?" SpongeBob smiled faintly. "Maybe they do." Patrick's face lit up a little. "That's nice." And with that, he drifted back into slow, rhythmic sleep. His body turned slowly in the water, arms floating gently, mouth forming a sleepy grin. SpongeBob looked around again. The water was darker now, but the darkness didn't feel empty. It felt like a soft blanket stretching forever in every direction. The faint glow from the jellyfish had faded, replaced by threads of light, drifting upward, not bright, but enough to trace the shapes of the ocean's dreams. As he watched, the light began to form patterns, faint outlines moving through the water like memories. He saw the volcano again, but not as it looked now. It was alive, glowing, surrounded by warmth. The Guardians stood at its base, their golden forms shining like living constellations. They weren't singing this time. They were listening. To what? SpongeBob couldn't tell at first. Then he realized they were listening to the sea. The hum that filled the water wasn't coming from the volcano anymore. It came from everywhere, from coral, from shells, from the smallest grains of sand. The ocean had learned the lullaby. It didn't need to be sung anymore. It was part of everything now. SpongeBob's chest filled with quiet warmth. The dream wasn't just the volcanoes. It belonged to all of them. He floated closer to Patrick, who snored gently, small bubbles escaping with each breath. The bubbles shimmered with light as they rose gold, then silver, then gone. SpongeBob whispered, "I think it worked." The water around him rippled softly, almost as if answering. He looked upward again. The surface of the sea reflected the night sky perfectly. The stars twinkled in the water, faint and wavy, as if the universe itself was dipping its fingers into the ocean. For a moment, SpongeBob couldn't tell whether he was under the sea or floating through space. The two looked the same now, the sea and the sky joined by the same dream. He could almost hear the volcano's last thoughts, gentle and slow. They weren't words, not even sounds, just feelings, warmth, stillness, gratitude. He imagined the volcano's voice deep below, whispering through the currents. The sea remembers, the sea rests. He smiled faintly. Maybe the volcano had wanted to sleep for a long time, but it couldn't until the ocean itself was ready to dream again. And now that peace had returned, it could finally rest, knowing everything it had created was safe. Tiny shapes floated past SpongeBob, glowing fragments of coral dust, maybe, or the remains of light left behind by the Guardians. They drifted upward like stars rising through the sea. He reached out and let one touch his hand. It felt warm for just a second before fading into his skin. A memory flickered in his mind. Laughter, bubbles, sunlight over jellyfish fields. Patrick chasing jellyfish while SpongeBob watched, now smiling. The volcano's hum blended with those memories, making them shimmer like reflections. Maybe, he thought, the volcano wasn't just dreaming of its past, it was dreaming of all the life it had made. Every laugh, every ripple, every sound under the water, every small thing the ocean had become. The current grew slightly warmer. A wave of light rolled through the water, gentle, golden, like a soft heartbeat pulsing through the sea one last time. Patrick stirred again, mumbling, 5 more minutes, before drifting back into sleep. SpongeBob laughed softly. Okay, buddy. 5 more minutes. He turned onto his back and floated, watching the stars through the water's surface. They were brighter now and closer. The sky and the sea were nearly touching. He wondered what the Guardians saw when they looked down from wherever they were now. Maybe they saw the same thing, an ocean dreaming, glowing with calm, filled with creatures resting under the same light. The thought made him feel small, but not in a sad way. Just part of something bigger, softer, eternal. As the minutes passed, the golden glow around him grew fainter. The volcano's last warmth was fading into the water, spreading thinner, dissolving into the deep. The light wouldn't vanish, it would become part of the sea's memory, hidden in every drop. SpongeBob could feel the current carrying it away. It passed over him, brushed through his hair, and vanished into the distance. The feeling was so gentle that it almost made him sleepy again. He let himself drift lower, closer to the soft sand below. The ground shimmered faintly, each grain glowing for just a moment before fading into calm darkness. Patrick followed, still asleep, drifting down like a feather in the water. SpongeBob smiled. "Good night, volcano," he whispered softly. Good night, ocean. The water didn't reply. It didn't need to. The silence said everything. He closed his eyes, feeling the slow rhythm of the sea move through him. The hum had become part of his heartbeat now. Every breath, every thought matched the calm of the ocean. Not the restless sleep of waves crashing or the trembling of tides, but the kind that lasts for ages, soft and weightless. Everything had fallen into the same deep rhythm. The fish no longer darted. The jellyfish no longer pulsed. Even the seaweed had stopped swaying. It was as if the entire world had found one perfect breath and decided to rest within it forever. SpongeBob floated at the edge of that silence. His eyes were half open, his thoughts distant. He could still see the faint golden haze from the volcano far below, not a glow anymore, but a memory. It pulsed once in a long while, like a sleepy heartbeat beneath layers of water and time. Patrick drifted nearby, curled slightly, snoring tiny bubbles that rose and shimmered before fading. His face was peaceful, his mouth curling into a small, content smile. The water around them was dark blue now, nearly black, but the darkness was soft, almost velvet. Tiny lights moved within it, plankton, coral dust, fragments of gold left over from the volcano's dream. They glowed faintly, like distant fireflies drifting through the deep. SpongeBob reached out, and one brushed against his hand. It burst into a gentle wave of warmth, spreading across his fingers before fading again. The warmth reminded him of home, of the Krusty Krab's golden light in the evening, of Gary's slow crawl across the floor, of Patrick laughing too loud at nothing. All of it felt connected somehow. All of it had come from the same place, the sea's heartbeat, the volcano's dream. He looked upward. The surface was far, far above, but he could see the light of the moon cutting through the water in silver ribbons. The volcano's last warmth turned those ribbons gold. Together, they shimmered like liquid sunlight drifting through a midnight ocean. And then, for a moment, SpongeBob wasn't sure where he was anymore. The sea began to change around him, the colors bending, the shapes softening, everything becoming dreamlike and endless. He blinked, and the world blurred into motion. He saw himself walking across glowing sand, his steps lighting small golden sparks with each movement. The air was filled with drifting lights, not fish, not bubbles, but floating fragments of memory. In one he saw himself cooking Krabby Patties under the soft glow of the kitchen lamps. In another he saw jellyfish dancing in the fields like stars. Each memory floated for a moment before dissolving into the same golden dust that filled the dream. He heard the faint hum again, the volcano's voice, deeper now, older, slower. It said nothing at all, but the sound alone carried meaning. Warmth, gratitude, farewell. SpongeBob stood at the edge of what looked like a glowing plain, the volcano's inner world, its final dream. The ground beneath him shimmered faintly, like molten glass cooled into soft crystal. Above him, the water was filled with golden light that moved as though it had weight, drifting, spiraling, falling like leaves. Patrick appeared beside him, still half asleep, scratching his head. Whoa, are we inside the dream? SpongeBob nodded slowly. I think so. Patrick squinted at the glowing horizon. Kinda looks like the inside of a Krabby Patty. SpongeBob smiled softly. Maybe it's what the ocean looks like when it dreams about home. The ground trembled gently beneath their feet. Not in fear, not in anger, just a sigh. The volcano was exhaling one last time. Golden cracks spread across the plain, filling the world with soft light. It didn't feel hot or dangerous. It felt warm, comforting, like being wrapped in sunlight. SpongeBob and Patrick stood together, watching as the light began to rise. It lifted everything coral dust, rocks, even the small shells scattered along the sand, all drifting upward as if gravity had forgotten to pull. The volcano was releasing its final breath, sending its dream into the ocean forever. SpongeBob closed his eyes and let it pass through him. He could feel the hum growing fainter, softer, until it was nothing but silence. When he opened his eyes again, everything around him had become light. There was no ground, no water, no sound, only glowing dust swirling in a vast space without edges. It looked like the sea and the stars had merged into one endless sky. Patrick floated nearby, his body outlined in gold. "It's so pretty," he whispered. SpongeBob nodded. His voice was quiet, steady. "Yeah, I think it's saying goodbye." They floated in that light for what felt like forever. No time, no direction, just the gentle drifting of gold around them. Then slowly the light began to fade. Not disappear, just dim, until it became a faint shimmer flowing through the water again. The warmth settled back into the sea, spreading across the floor, the coral, the reefs, back to the places where it all began. SpongeBob found himself floating again, the world calm and blue, the volcano now a silent hill of dark stone below. The hum was gone. Only the ocean's soft rhythm remained. Patrick yawned, rubbing his eyes. "Did we just wake up?" SpongeBob looked around. "Maybe the sea did." Patrick blinked. "And us?" SpongeBob smiled gently. "Maybe we're still dreaming." The two floated quietly for a long while. No sound but the soft movement of water, no light, but the faint glimmer of the moon from above. The volcano slept below them, peaceful, motionless. SpongeBob tilted his head. "It's funny," he said softly. "All this time, I thought dreams were only for people. But maybe everything dreams, even the ocean, even the volcano, even us." Patrick thought for a moment, then nodded. "Yeah, everything needs naps." They both laughed quietly, their voices echoing faintly through the calm water. As the laughter faded, they drifted upward toward the silver shimmer of the moonlight. The current was gentle, slow, carrying them like feathers. The seafloor vanished beneath them. The stars above rippled faintly through the surface, merging with the reflection of the sleeping volcano below. For a brief moment, everything, sea, sky, stars, dreams, became one still image, glowing softly in perfect balance. Patrick mumbled, "I think I'm hungry again." SpongeBob smiled. "Let's go home, Patrick." They drifted higher, their silhouettes moving through the golden haze. The volcano rested below, calm and eternal. Not the kind of calm that comes after a storm, but the kind that feels ancient, deep, and full of memory. The world beneath Bikini Bottom seemed to be holding its breath, caught between waking and dreaming. Every grain of sand had settled. Every bubble had found stillness. The volcano far below slept in peace. A soft blue glow filled the sea. It wasn't from the sun or the moon, it came from the water itself, like the ocean had learned to shine from within. The light spread slowly, wrapping the reefs, drifting through coral tunnels, brushing gently across sleeping creatures curled in their homes. Jellyfish floated like lanterns, quiet and weightless. A school of glowing sardines moved together in perfect silence, their bodies forming shapes that faded as soon as they appeared. The currents were light, like sighs moving through a dream. High above the ocean floor, SpongeBob floated. His eyes were open, but there was no urgency in them, only peace. He could still feel the warmth left behind by the volcano's final dream, faint but steady, like the echo of a lullaby. Patrick drifted beside him, half snoring, his body turning slowly in the soft current. Every few seconds he mumbled something about ice cream or naps. They had been floating for what felt like hours, maybe longer. Time didn't seem to matter anymore. The world had slowed down to the rhythm of the sea's heartbeat, steady, slow, eternal. SpongeBob raised a hand and watched as small lights clung to his fingers, plankton dust glowing softly before drifting away again. The water around him looked almost like the night sky, filled with faint golden specks instead of stars. For a long while, he didn't say anything. Then finally, he whispered, "It's so quiet." Patrick opened one eye. "Too quiet?" SpongeBob smiled faintly. "No, just quiet enough." They let the silence stay. It wasn't empty, it was full of small sounds that only the calm ocean could make. The distant hum of coral breathing, the faint crackle of tiny shells shifting in the sand, the soft, rhythmic pulse of jellyfish bells, everything alive, but resting. The volcano's outline was faint in the distance now, a dark shape on the ocean floor, glowing just slightly at its edges. It looked peaceful, like it had melted into the sea's heartbeat. SpongeBob watched it quietly. He thought about all the stories the sea must have told over the years, all the things it had seen, and all the dreams it must have carried for creatures who never knew it was dreaming alongside them. Patrick turned onto his back, floating like a starfish in the gentle current. "Hey, SpongeBob? Yeah? Do you think volcanoes have dreams every night, or was that their last one?" SpongeBob thought for a moment. Maybe volcanoes don't dream every night. Maybe they wait until the sea really needs one. Patrick blinked. "Like bedtime stories?" "Yeah," SpongeBob said, smiling softly. "Exactly like bedtime stories." Patrick nodded seriously. "I like that. Except I usually fall asleep before the ending." They both laughed quietly. Their laughter didn't echo, it just dissolved into the water like warmth. The ocean was listening. Far below, coral slowly pulsed, glowing in soft waves that matched the sound of the sea's breathing. Every color in the reef seemed muted, pastel and peaceful pinks, blues, greens, and pale yellows blending like watercolors. A crab moved slowly across the sand, its shell faintly glowing from the dust that still floated in the water. A group of sea snails glided past, their trails leaving thin, sparkling lines behind them. Even the smallest movement felt gentle, careful, respectful of the stillness around them. SpongeBob tilted his head upward. The surface was far above, but he could see it shimmer faintly silver light bending through the water, soft and distant. The moon must have been high, shining down like a lantern to the sea. Oh, he took a slow breath, feeling the water move through him, past him, around him, the whole ocean breathing together. He didn't feel small anymore, not even lost. He felt like part of something that had always been there, something that didn't end or begin, it just flowed, like a dream without an edge. Patrick drifted closer, bumping gently into SpongeBob's side. "I think I could stay like this forever," he said sleepily. SpongeBob looked at him, smiling. "Yeah, me too." Patrick yawned. "But also, I could use a snack." SpongeBob chuckled. "Maybe when we wake up." Patrick thought about that. "Are we asleep?" SpongeBob didn't answer right away. He looked at the drifting sand, at the way it moved in slow spirals before settling again. He looked at the coral, glowing softly as if dreaming in color. And then he said quietly, "Maybe the ocean's dream is still happening, and we're just part of it." Patrick's eyes closed halfway. "Then I hope it's a good dream." It is, SpongeBob said. It really is. They drifted in silence again. The hum of the volcano was gone now, but in its place was something else. A quiet rhythm, faint and endless. It was like the sound of water moving through stone, or the whisper of waves curling against the shore. It was the sound of peace, carried through every layer of the sea. Fish glided through beams of soft light. Their fins brushed against streams of golden dust that scattered and swirled like slow-motion fireflies. The coral's gentle glow reached upward, fading as it climbed higher into the darker waters. Everything in the ocean seemed to be moving slower now, as if the sea wanted to make this moment last as long as possible. SpongeBob closed his eyes. For a moment, he could almost hear the volcano's voice again, not rumbling, not speaking, just humming softly, like the sound of a lullaby that never ends. Patrick mumbled, "Hey, SpongeBob?" "Yeah, Patrick? Do you think the ocean dreams about us too?" SpongeBob smiled without opening his eyes. "I think maybe we're the dream." Patrick snored softly in response. SpongeBob let the sound fade into the rhythm of the sea. The silence that followed wasn't empty, it was full of warmth. The ocean felt alive but quiet, whole but resting. The deep sea stretched endlessly in every direction, blue fading into darker blue until it met the kind of quiet that could only exist in dreams. Nothing stirred, nothing rushed. The world had finally slowed down enough for everything to rest. SpongeBob and Patrick floated near a coral ridge that glowed faintly in soft gold and lavender. The light wasn't bright. It was the kind that glowed just enough to see the edges of things, to let the sea feel gentle and half asleep. The two friends were still wrapped in that same calm, eyes half-lidded, breathing with the slow rhythm of the ocean itself. Above them, schools of fish moved like drifting clouds. They didn't dart or rush. They glided, their bodies leaving trails of tiny bubbles that shimmered like dust in sunlight. A sea turtle passed slowly, ancient and calm, its shell covered with glowing moss that pulsed faintly with every heartbeat. Patrick was upside down again, turning lazily, his arms spread wide. "I feel like a bubble," he said sleepily. SpongeBob giggled softly. "You kind of are one, Patrick." Patrick grinned. "Cool." They floated in silence again. Every now and then a soft vibration moved through the water, not the tremor of the volcano, but the pulse of life returning. Each ripple carried warmth from one part of the sea to another, spreading it like a whisper. Everything is okay now. The volcano's outline was barely visible in the distance. It didn't glow anymore, but it didn't look dead either. It looked peaceful, as if its dream had ended, but it was still resting in the soft cradle of the sea's heart. SpongeBob's eyes softened. He whispered to himself, "Thank you." The words floated away as tiny bubbles, rising through the calm water until they disappeared into the light above. Patrick glanced over. "Who are you thanking?" SpongeBob smiled faintly. "The volcano, I think." Patrick blinked. "Oh, for what?" "For dreaming," SpongeBob said, "and for letting us see it." Patrick looked thoughtful for a moment, then nodded slowly. "Yeah, it was a nice dream. Warm and sparkly." SpongeBob laughed softly. "Yeah, sparkly." He looked upward again. The light above had shifted. The moonlight had softened, turning pale and silver as if morning somewhere, far above, was beginning to stir. The deep sea wouldn't see sunlight for hours yet, but it could feel it. The water itself seemed to sense that dawn was coming. Far off in the distance, a whale's call echoed through the stillness, long, low, and soothing. The sound moved through the water like a slow wave, brushing over coral, through caves, around rocks, touching everything with its deep hum. Patrick's eyes fluttered. "That's the biggest snore I've ever heard," he murmured. SpongeBob smiled. "It's beautiful." The sound faded slowly, replaced again by the quiet sound of drifting water and soft coral crackle. Everything returned to that endless, sleepy rhythm. As they floated, SpongeBob began to notice small movements in the sand below, little starfish stretching their arms, crabs pushing out of their burrows, sea plants swaying gently again. The world was waking up, not fast, not loud, but softly, naturally, like the sea itself was taking a slow breath after a long dream. Patrick turned onto his stomach, looking down at the sand. "Hey, look. Everyone's waking up." SpongeBob nodded. "Yeah, the ocean's morning is starting." Patrick yawned. "Do we have to get up too?" SpongeBob looked at him and smiled kindly. "No, Patrick. We can rest a little longer." Patrick mumbled something that sounded like "good" and drifted off again, tiny bubbles slipping from his mouth. SpongeBob drifted downward a little, his feet brushing against the soft sand. The grains glowed faintly where he touched them, a gentle reaction, as though the sea itself greeted him. He sat there quietly for a while, his body still, his thoughts soft and slow. Everything around him shimmered with the kind of calm that only exists at the end of something beautiful. The volcano had dreamed, the sea had listened, and now everything just was. No noise, no story, no rush. Just being. A group of glowing jellyfish drifted past him. Their tentacles flowed like silk ribbons, brushing softly against the coral. Each pulse of light from their bodies looked like a heartbeat, gentle and steady. SpongeBob reached out as one passed by, and for a moment it glowed brighter, reflecting the warmth in his eyes. He whispered, "You're still here." The jellyfish floated upward, joining the others until they became faint lights fading into the higher water. A small current stirred the sand again, carrying bits of gold dust through the water. They drifted past spatulating SpongeBob, curling and swirling until they formed faint pattern shapes that almost looked like dreams taking form one last time. He watched them move, smiling softly. Patrick floated down beside him, upside down as usual. "What are you looking at?" SpongeBob pointed. "The volcano's dream dust, I think." Patrick squinted. "Looks like pancakes." SpongeBob laughed quietly. "You're always hungry." Patrick shrugged, drifting slowly in a lazy spin. "Dreams taste better when you eat them." SpongeBob giggled again. "Maybe." They both sat there, SpongeBob upright, Patrick drifting in slow circles, watching the dust swirl. It caught the light from the coral and glowed gently, like the ocean's own glitter. Every now and then it would form shapes, waves, clouds, even faint outlines of jellyfish or flowers before dissolving again. It was like the sea was remembering everything one last time before letting it go. SpongeBob whispered, "Do you think the volcano's dream is still in the water?" Patrick blinked. "Maybe. Dreams don't really go away, right? They just float around." SpongeBob nodded slowly. "Yeah, maybe every current carries a little piece of it." Patrick grinned. "So when I drink water—" SpongeBob laughed, cutting him off. "No, Patrick." They both laughed quietly again, their voices soft and low. The coral lights dimmed a little, matching the rhythm of the sea. Everything was softer now, quieter still, but not empty. It was a kind of peaceful ending, a silence that felt alive. SpongeBob leaned back slightly, letting himself drift upward again. His eyes half closed. his mind calm. The warmth of the water wrapped around him like a blanket. For a moment, he thought about everything that had happened, the volcano's hum, the golden light, the drifting dream. It all felt distant now, but not gone. It was like the memory of a song that you can still feel even after it ends. It wasn't minutes or hours, it was just the soft drifting of water, the movement of light, the quiet pulse of the sea's heart. Everything had slowed into a rhythm that was beyond clocks or calendars. SpongeBob floated through the calm, not really swimming, just moving with the current. The water carried him gently past glowing coral towers and smooth stone arches that had been shaped by years of tides. Small creatures peeked from holes in the rock, blinking sleepily as the world shimmered faintly around them. The volcano's dust still lingered in the water, though fainter now. Golden specks drifted in the dim light, catching on shells, plants, and even SpongeBob's sleeves. Every time he moved, the dust scattered again, glowing softly like stars shaken from the sky. Patrick was floating upside down above him again, his limbs spread like a lazy sea star. "SpongeBob," he mumbled. "I had a dream inside a dream." SpongeBob looked up. "What was it about?" Patrick scratched his head. "I was eating lava-flavored ice cream." SpongeBob giggled quietly. "Was it hot?" Patrick thought for a moment, squinting. "Kind of warm. Tasted like bedtime." They both laughed softly. Their laughter didn't travel far. The ocean caught it and wrapped it in gentle bubbles that rose and disappeared before reaching the surface. A calm silence followed, the kind that doesn't need to be filled, the kind that means everything is okay. In that silence, SpongeBob could feel something, not sound exactly, but a presence. The ocean wasn't asleep anymore, but it wasn't fully awake either. It was just resting. It felt alive all around him, like a slow heartbeat in the walls of the world. He looked down. The volcano's outline had changed. What once was sharp and black was now smooth, covered in soft coral growth. Tiny fish swam through the cracks that used to glow with fire. Where the lava had flowed, new life had begun to settle small plants, glowing moss, even clusters of colorful shells that looked like flowers. The volcano wasn't just sleeping, it was becoming part of the ocean again. SpongeBob smiled. "It's beautiful," he whispered. Patrick floated down beside him, blinking at the scene. "It looks cozy." "Yeah," SpongeBob said softly. "Like it's dreaming of being the ocean now." Patrick grinned. "I dream of being a sandwich sometimes." SpongeBob chuckled. "You kinda already are." They drifted lower until their feet touched the soft sand at the volcano's base. The ground was warm, not hot, just comfortable, like lying under a blanket that remembers the sun. The sand shimmered faintly under the faint glow of the water, glowing more whenever their hands brushed it. Patrick sat down and sighed, his voice muffled by the calm water. "Feels nice." SpongeBob nodded, sitting beside him. "Yeah, it's like the ocean made this place just for resting." They sat there together, surrounded by the quiet shimmer. No noise, no movement. Just the deep breathing of the sea. Far above, faint shapes began to appear, outlines of whales gliding through the higher water, their tails moving slow and graceful. Every swing of their fins sent waves of light drifting downward, touching the coral, the sand, the volcano. It was as if the whales were carrying sunlight from somewhere far away, painting the ocean with soft silver. Patrick tilted his head. "Are they swimming or dreaming?" SpongeBob smiled. "Maybe both." They watched the whales disappear into the distance. The world stayed calm. Even the smallest ripples seemed to move slower now. The golden dust settled on everything, the coral, the shells, their arms and faces, until the whole place looked covered in faint starlight. SpongeBob reached out and picked up a small shell resting in the sand. Inside, it shimmered faintly with tiny reflections, like it was holding a memory. When he looked closer, he thought he saw Flash's jellyfish fields, glowing lava, drifting dreams. All the moments from before captured quietly inside this one little shell. He held it to his chest. I think the ocean keeps memories. Patrick blinked. Like a scrapbook? SpongeBob nodded. Yeah, but instead of pages, it uses the water. Patrick's eyes widened slightly. So, all our laughs and bubbles are in here somewhere? Probably, SpongeBob said. Maybe they're still floating around, becoming part of the sea's dream. Patrick grinned. Cool. Then the ocean is mostly us. SpongeBob giggled. Maybe a little. They sat quietly again. The volcano's glow pulsed faintly beneath them, like the faintest heartbeat, not loud, not fiery, just warm and alive. It wasn't gone after all. It was still breathing, just in a new way. SpongeBob closed his eyes, feeling the vibration through the sand, up through his arms into his chest. It was steady, slow, peaceful. He whispered, "It's still dreaming." Patrick leaned back and yawned. Me too. A small current drifted past them, carrying a soft melody, faint but familiar. The same hum that had filled the ocean before now turned into something gentler, like a lullaby the sea hummed to itself. The current brushed against their faces, curling through their hair, moving past their hands. It carried warmth and stillness with it, as though saying one last good night. Patrick's eyes fluttered closed. I think the ocean's singing again. SpongeBob whispered back, Yeah, it never really stopped. The sound moved through the coral, across the reef, and into the open sea. Everywhere it touched, the light glowed a little brighter, the sand shimmered a little longer, and the creatures moved a little slower, not in fear, but in peace. The whales above answered with another long, deep tone. The two sounds met in the water, the volcano's soft hum, and the whales' echo blending together until they became one perfect note, vibrating through the entire ocean. The deep ocean had fallen completely silent. Not the empty kind of silence, but the full, breathing kind, where every sound had meaning, even the faintest pulse of water. The volcano, once a roaring heart of fire, now glowed gently beneath the sand like a lantern hidden inside a seashell. SpongeBob and Patrick lay still, half asleep in the shimmering dust. Their shapes glowed faintly, coated in drifting specks of golden light that floated like snow. Every few moments, a tiny bubble escaped from the SpongeBob's mouth and drifted upward, reflecting the blue light above. The current had slowed almost to nothing. Even the fish nearby hovered in a dreamlike trance, tails barely moving, eyes half closed, their bodies swaying softly with the rhythm of the sea. SpongeBob blinked drowsily and whispered, "Patrick?" Patrick didn't open his eyes. "Yeah, buddy?" "Do you think the ocean dreams about us too?" Patrick smiled sleepily. "Maybe it dreams we're bubbles." SpongeBob giggled quietly. "Maybe we are." The laughter faded gently into the water, and something changed almost invisible at first. The golden dust began to rise again, spinning slowly like galaxies forming from the deep. Each speck shimmered brighter and brighter until the entire ocean floor was glowing softly, the light spreading outward in slow ripples. The volcano beneath them gave a low, resonant hum, a single, deep tone that echoed through the sand and stone. The coral responded with gentle pulses of light, each one like a heartbeat answering back. The sea wasn't asleep anymore. It was awake peacefully, quietly awake. Above them, beams of light began to descend from the surface. They weren't harsh or sharp, but soft and fluid, bending with the water's movement. The beams reached down like fingers of sunlight, touching the coral, the shells, the sand, and finally, SpongeBob and Patrick. Their outlines shimmered brighter. The dust around them began to swirl in soft rings, forming gentle spirals that turned slowly in the calm. SpongeBob looked up at the light with wide eyes. "Patrick, look." Patrick squinted. "It's like daytime came to visit underwater." The light moved rhythmically, in and out, like the ocean was breathing along with them. Each pulse brought a faint sound, the echo of the lullaby, now pure and clear. It didn't come from one place anymore. It came from everywhere. The water, the sand, the volcano, the shells, the coral. Even their own hearts seemed to hum with it. It was the ocean's final song. Not a farewell, but a promise that everything it held, every dream and every spark of warmth, would keep living within it forever. SpongeBob stood up slowly, the sand slipping softly between his feet. The current wrapped around him like a soft blanket, and he could feel it, the same calm pulse that had been with them from the beginning. He placed his hand gently on the volcano's surface. It was warm, steady. "Thank you," he whispered. For a moment, the volcano glowed brighter, just once, as if acknowledging the words. Patrick yawned and stretched. "Can we nap here forever?" SpongeBob smiled. "Maybe we already are." Patrick blinked. "Whoa." The lullaby grew softer again, fading into something that sounded like the memory of music. The light beams began to withdraw, returning slowly toward the surface. The golden dust followed them, rising higher and higher until it became just faint trails of shimmer in the blue distance. The last bits of glow clung to the coral, outlining them in silver. Then even that faded. Now only the faint hum of the volcano remained, a heartbeat deep in the earth, echoing through the water. SpongeBob and Patrick sat quietly again, not speaking, not moving. They didn't need to. The ocean had said everything. Around them, the reef began to sway again, small plants moving with the water, fish darting softly between shadows, life returning to rhythm. The world had found its stillness, and from that stillness, motion was born again. Above, the whales returned, drifting gracefully overhead. Their massive shadows crossed the light like clouds over a field. Each slow movement of their tails sent soft ripples through the water, and with each ripple came new brightness, sunlight breaking through, life reawakening. SpongeBob looked up, his eyes reflecting the moving light. "They're still singing," he said softly. Patrick listened, then nodded. "I think the ocean never stops singing. We just forget to listen sometimes." SpongeBob smiled. "Then let's always listen." They lay back again, eyes half closed, watching the light move over them. As they drifted into rest, the scene widened. The camera pulled back past the coral, past the volcano, past the glowing sand, until SpongeBob and Patrick were just two tiny figures glowing softly in the middle of the great, endless blue dot goodbye.